So let's test out this stream setup. To anybody watching, I don't think there's anybody watching at the moment, but to anybody watching, my name is Caleb. This is my first ever Twitch stream. I figure I'm going to play a little bit of Valorant. And yeah, normally I'm a big fan of sci-fi games. Play a lot of Halo. Play a little bit of Stellaris too. Probably won't play that on stream though, because it's a little slow. I've been a little addicted to Valheim lately, so if anybody wants to see Valheim, then please let me know. So yeah. I'm gonna test sending a message. I've actually never sent messages before. I think typically when it comes to Twitch, I watch a lot of VODs, watch a lot of stuff on YouTube as well, but I thought if I wanted to try streaming, Twitch really is the place to go. Okay, cool. So that's, oh, and it appears on the stream itself. That's kind of cool. Neat. I'm learning how this Twitch software works. Okay, so let's open some Valorant. Critical updates are available. We're going to apply updates. Okay. I literally just downloaded this game like 15 minutes ago. It already needs updates. Something state of modern gaming. Okay. So okay. Keep your games updated. Well, right. Not now. I'll hit play. And we are underway. So Valorant, I think, is it's an FPS game. I think it's a battle royale game. I've seen clips of it and it looks quite fun, but I've never really. I'm not normally a big battle royale fan. I do like them, but it's sort of I don't have a. I've never had a good excuse to play them. Enter Riot ID. Oh, I see. Confirm. So I've played some Fortnite, which I think I was okay at. I got like one or two dubs. I do not have epilepsy. RIP to anybody who does. If you have epilepsy, please probably don't watch. Or I guess watch carefully.
Agent, welcome to Valorant.
Oh my
Name's
goodness.
Brimstone. I'll be taking you through some training so we can get you out in the field. We'll start with basic movement. Walk over there, would you?
Do you want me to play with keyboard or controller? I have an Xbox controller. I'll start with keyboard, but...
This base is still getting cleaned up. Jump and crawl your way to that gun over there.
Oh, the jump is really small. That's a really tiny jump. Okay. So let's crouch.
Now shoot that flying target for me. Accuracy is everything, so remember to stop before you fire. Try it on these bots, then grab the rifle.
Okay, so what is... Okay, so you scroll wheel, but what is target? Stand... Where the bots are. Oh, I see.
Oh!
Ow. Is there a zoom? Okay. Oh, I see. So Okay, so it's a secondary function. The pistol just didn't have a secondary function. That makes sense.
All right, Agent, 3 more. Position yourself so you only fight one at a time. You can aim down sights for a closer look.
God, I would be dead. I'd be so dead so fast. I guess I will be so dead so fast.
Oh!
Ow. Okay. Cool. Controls are pretty intuitive, which I appreciate.
The next spot can't see you, but it will hear you. Walk slowly so it doesn't detect your footsteps. Then, take it by surprise.
Oh, I see. Is there a see-through walls mechanic? I'm not sure if I like that. I remember they had that in Halo. I'm a big Halo fan, like I mentioned. They had that in Halo 4, and it was honestly the worst ability in the game.
Nice job. Let's try out some different guns on these targets. Normally, you'd have to think about which guns and abilities to spend your creds on. But for now, go wild.
Okay, same as Halo.
Take this time to check your settings. Adjust your aim sensitivity. Review your keybinds. I want everything to custom fit.
Okay, that's cool. I get it, Okay.
Let's test your accuracy. These bots pop with one headshot. Body shots do less damage and leg shots even less. They'll despawn quickly, so see how many you can get before the timer runs out.
Also, let me know if there's ever any audio issues. I do notice that the gameplay is a little bit smoother on my screen than on the stream screen. So, I'll see if I can resolve that for the next stream. I'll look into it, and maybe I need to close a few more programs or fiddle with some settings. I'm not quite sure. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, that's hold. Interesting. Okay. I do prefer that. Oh, so I'm stuck with this gun. That's annoying. Okay, so I want to burst fire. I do like the presentation of this game so far. It feels like a little Borderlands-y.
Not bad. All right, track down that waypoint. It'll lead you to the teleporter. Go through it so we can practice using your abilities. They make a huge difference in setting up a favorable fight.
It feels a little Borderlands, but like more realistic. Oh, so this takes place on Earth. Okay. Teleporter. Okay. I don't think this game has a campaign.
Every agent's abilities are different. See what your bow does by shooting that wall.
Scanning ahead.
And there they are. Use your intel to take them out one by one.
Out of charges.
Oh, so ours
Up ahead is a device called the Spike. It's how the enemy steals our radionite. Attackers try to plant it at key sites, and defenders try to stop them. Practice taking the Spike to the highlighted site and planting it.
Okay. Radionite. So that's this series MacGuffin. Okay. I don't really know if I care too much about the lore of this game. It's like I don't really care about like seasonal games.
Let the attackers plant the Spike. The defenders will try to defuse it. I'll send in some bots. You take cover in the boathouse behind you and defend that Spike. your abilities to give you the advantage. Shoot your sonar bolt at the targets on the wall to reveal hidden enemies.
I am the hunter!
Okay. Okay, I think I'm an idiot. I'm doing something wrong.
I am the hunter!
Okay.
I am the hunter!
Okay, yeah.
I am the hunter!
What am I doing wrong here? Oh my goodness.
Excellent. You're good to go. You can always head back to the range to practice different guns and abilities. When you're ready, the front lines are waiting.
Okay.
Welcome to Valorant.
Thank you. So if this takes place on Earth, why are there floating islands? It's kind of dumb. Okay. Strike now. Okay, let's just play. Be together to win. Yeah, don't be racist, don't be a dick. I get it. Party chat. Sure, that can be funny. Turn off party chat if people get weird or annoying. Let's do push to talk. I need to figure out what the button for that is, though. Team voice chat on. It's V. Okay, that seems intuitive. Save all and close. Okay, we'll go to unrated. Switch to spike escalation. Team deathmatch premiere. Okay. Kinda digging it.
Match found.
Oh, okay. There we go. I was a little worried there for a moment. Oh, so I have to pick a cut. This looks kind of like Winter Schnee from Ruby.
Cool. Let's go.
Jet. South Korea. Jet's agile and evasive fighting style lets her take risks no one else can. She runs circles around every skirmish, cutting enemies up even before they even know what hit them. Okay, cool. Who are my teammates? Oh, so that's like an AI, probably. Okay. Central Illinois. Been to the States, never been to Illinois. I've only really been briefly. I don't know if this is what Illinois looks like. It looks a little... It's both like more ruined than I expect Illinois to be, and also cleaner. But I don't really know. Maybe that's just my impression of the states in general.
Are those our enemies? This won't take long.
Maybe I'll take that. Do it. Yeah, I don't have any. Hold on, I have So this one doesn't have like an ult or like a target. Oh, cool. Is this guy AFK? That's hilarious. Very sneaky.
My ult's not ready.
Watching here.
Someone's an attacker spawn.
Spike
Enemy
down B.
Reloading. Enemy spotted B.
Die, you're down.
Enemy spotted.
Last player standing.
Shot down.
Oh no, we're back.
Revealing area.
Oh no. Oh,
Seba, be
okay.
there and find them for me.
Okay, cool. Round 2. Okay. I don't know if this gun really got me all that far. I like the sniper rifle in
Deep
the
breath.
F5.
tutorial.
Press F5.
Scanning ahead. Blinding.
Press your F5 on your keyboard.
Who's top? Smoking it.
Many enemies B. Last player
carrier
standing.
dead.
Spike
Reloading.
down B.
Nope.
Oh wow.
Let's get these idiots.
I don't know if my character has the right to say that. Let's something a little bit more.
I'll crush her radiant heart.
Okay. Let's go breach.
Our spike carrier is killed.
Spike down B.
Enemy spotted B.
Got enemies, B. Clearing out. Prepare for hellfire.
Last player standing. Flawless.
Enemies close. Eyes up.
Maybe I'll just keep the pistol, you know? It doesn't really seem to matter what I use. No, okay, that's fine. This looks fun. It's like a... Yeah, okay, it's like a shotgun or something. Cool, cool.
Bring it up.
Gun here.
Revealing area.
Still in sight. Enemy spotted B.
Our carrier's dead.
So, today we're gonna
Spike
have
down
a
B.
where we watch other people play Valorant.
Heads up.
Oh, we actually got a kill. Cool, we might watch
No
this.
charges left.
I have this.
Careful now.
One enemy remaining.
My ult is ready.
Enemy spotted B.
Ultimate ready. Come on, let's go.
We're gonna win. No other option. Let's go.
Okay, I want to try this judge thing again, because that's...
Defenders win.
Well... MVP some... Okay, I don't know if I deserve XP for that, but that's okay. Oof, that was brutal. Oh. That was okay. Cool. I don't really. Maybe I need to play more FPS games. I feel like the only major FPS game I play a lot is Halo. I feel like when you play like one game too much, you sort of get into that game's rhythm. And Halo is very particular like vibe. And so you try to play another game and you're just like, oh, this is like completely different. This feels a lot more like Call of Duty, which I played very little of. Maybe it's the difference between like what you might call an arena shooter versus like other forms of shooters. Halo has a bit more of that like classic legacy of Doom, Quake, especially Halo Infinite kind of went back to that, although I don't play too much Halo Infinite anymore because it's not very good. Oh, people are actually talking in chat. That's cool. Good to know. The queue times for this are really long. I thought this game had a lot of players. Or is this normal? Maybe I'll try, go back to home, go back to play. I guess Swift play? By the way, if anybody ever wants to join me in Valorant, then let me know.
Match found.
Again, we can be bad together, or you can carry me. That's also an option. Okay, where are we now? What's this one called? Sharpie, Weeda Cap, Devilish. Let's go with the same one as last time. I don't know enough about what I'm doing to, oh, somebody else picked her. Darn. Other pretty lady, who are you? Oh, interesting. She can like revive people.
I am both shield and sword.
Okay, we can try it. Why not? Take the costume. I'm a little confused how this world works, though. I thought this was like a sci-fi thing, but it seems like she has like magic. Not that it really matters all that much. Bastion of China. Sage creates safety content. Hopefully nobody was too invested in that. E-Legend. Okay, well, let's hope that E-Legend is a legend of this game. U.S. Central Illinois. We're back in Illinois?
Hey, how are my buddies? No, not y'all. I'm talking to these little guys, but yeah. What's up?
It's, doesn't look like Illinois.
Yeah. What's up, fam?
Hello.
Spike down A.
Got one.
They
I
shot
got
her.
Spike. Need healing. Reloading. This way.
Spike planted.
Oh my gosh.
Last player standing.
Drop.
One enemy remaining.
That's 3.
Oh my gosh. Idle.
Gotta go.
Clutch.
Ready. I faced one. I'm out of here. Go,
Yeah,
go, go.
I know she popped off. I was there.
Sorry if I'm bad. This is my second match.
KJ, work
Can't
your
spell to
magic.
save my life. Oh, forgot to buy a gun.
Gotta go.
It's alright, I like the pistol anyway. The only gun you need.
Up and away.
If I said that and then I was like, actually.
Here we go.
Enemy spotted A.
Well, at least this time I actually shot at them.
Last player
Hello,
standing.
Tina Belina.
Spike planted.
Actually, know who Tina Belina is.
Their jet has nothing on me.
You just, like,
I
send me a
got her.
message. The Tina Belina is secretly somebody I know, and so I'm trying to figure out if she is like watching from work. Oh my goodness.
Reloading.
Where have I gone? Or if she just like came in to like send a message and then left.
Even fight? That's fun.
I got Spike.
Oh my god, some of the people in this game, they're like
I'm out of here.
Spike down mid. Last player standing. Flawless.
Oh my goodness.
Last round in the half.
Last round to use our creds and abilities. Don't waste your firepower.
I don't know, let's try shoddy. Last round was swap. I don't know what a swap is, but it's fine.
Together!
Dizzy's up top!
Blocking sight. Multiple enemies B. Placing sentry.
Oh, that's cool.
Need healing.
Oh, you little homie!
Joke's over! You're dead!
See ya. Peace!
Enemy A.
My territory! My rules! I have them now!
Flash is ready.
Spike down mid.
What happened?
One enemy remaining.
We're going again.
Last player standing.
I'm a little baffled. 1v1 though, that's kinda cool.
30 seconds left.
I got the spike!
10 seconds left.
Get out of my way!
Clutch.
Okay.
Switching sides.
He says their bullets tickle.
Oh, they're like little... like figurines. It's kinda cool. As you may see, I have some figurines in the background. I was thinking at some point I might try to do some like subscriber goals or follower goals. So, if we get enough followers, I may do a guided tour of my figurine collection in the background.
Turret out.
Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in.
Enemy spotted A.
Gotcha. No more soba. Somebody's there.
Spike planted.
I'm trying to play a little bit more cautiously now. I keep dying, so my previous strats of
Enemy
not-
spotted. Oh!
haven't been working out very well.
Enemy spotted.
Last player standing.
Oh, I'm the last? Oh. Fiddlesticks. Oh, that was so casual too. No.
Match point.
Race it to the spike sites.
Oh no. I liked the shot. That was fun. I was a fan of the
Need a drop.
shotty.
We can do this. targets.
Oh.
My territory, my rules!
My wingman's down.
Oh my goodness. Where am I get a little tilted?
Last player standing.
Saw you, Mosh!
Okay, we lost.
Attackers win.
Okay. What was my... I died 6 times, and I got 0 of everything else. Cool. Okay. Oh my goodness. So that was swift play. Not play. We're not competitive. It's definitely not. Sure. Let's go back to unrated, perhaps, and see how that goes. Oh, Tina Belina followed me. Thank you for the follow. I feel so special. First follower. Just don't follow me home, as they say. I don't know who says that. In queue. I haven't noticed. I do think the load times for this game are much longer than I expected, but like, maybe that's just normal in like AAA games now. Because I remember Halo Infinite is a really long load time between matches too. And typically I play a lot of single player games. I have a couple single player games in mind for future streams. But yeah, like a minute, like longer than a minute for what is like one of the biggest games people are playing right now, like that's kind of confusing. Like I don't even think I usually used to have to wait a minute to play Fortnite. Although I haven't played Fortnite in ages. So I stopped playing well before Thanos joined the game. I don't know, is that still a thing? I remember I was watching a podcast recently and they talked about how Naruto got into Fortnite, and that was
Match found.
it's like Japanese companies never work with anybody aside from other Japanese companies. Lotus, where is this? Is this supposed to be like we're in China? Okay. Pretty South Korean lady. She reminds me of Blake Schnee. Asian Con. Okay, so we have David Pray Now. We have yours truly. We have Turbo Sloth. We have Penguin Boy, who I think we might have seen earlier, and Agent Come, which I assume is Agent coming to kill you and not anything more unpleasant. Easily throw a projectile that expands into a brief vision block cloud. Hold the key to curve the smoke in the direction of your crosshair. Oh, that's cool. Cute. Okay. Gust to reuse the wind control directions. Just going jet stance. Every 2 kills. Well, so I'm never gonna get that. Blade storm. Equip a set of highly throwing knives. That was kind of a cool animation. Central Illinois. Oh, is that like the region that were... Oh, is that like the server region? Because that's there. I was gonna say, these places have not been looking like Illinois. Not that I've ever been to Illinois, but still. Oh my goodness. Oh no. Okay. So this is probably supposed to be some sort of like Chinese knockoff. The environments are pretty, like they look good. They just, I don't know, they look... Maybe it's because like, for me, when I'm playing a game, what makes an environment is like the way it plays into the wider world. Like I want to know like, what is the role of this temple? Is it like religious, you know? And like, because that like adds character to an area. An area can look pretty, but if it doesn't serve a purpose within the game, then it's like, what am I here for? That was like the problem with for Halo Infinite, where like everything looked like really pretty, but it was also like super generic. So it just wasn't particularly impressive or interesting to look at. I do think the character designs are all really good, though. I'd be curious to learn more of the countries of origin. Maybe I need to like go through the roster a little bit. Understand the lore. Okay, you know, loading anytime, anytime.
I will defend you all with my power and with my life.
My power and with my life.
Reloading.
Sneaky pistol. A little sneaky.
Reload him.
AFK. Okay, cool. That's fine. I needed a handicap anyway, then that good. Oh, generic Eastern religious imagery.
Here. Reloading.
Spike planted.
Enemy spotted. A. Reloading.
I'm about to die, that's what I
Reloading.
That's my job.
Healing you.
Oh my goodness.
Reloading.
That's scary.
Reloading.
Last player standing.
Oh my gosh, I can't even get a kill. Oh my gosh.
Just gotta play around the slow fields and we're fine.
Let's try something different. Let's try whatever this is. Oh. That is sheer pain. I think I can observe myself getting a little bit better. It's all about corners, being careful. Well, what I'll probably try to do is like stick with other people so I can do team play. Hopefully some of their skill rubs off. Fuck you, got a kill.
Spike
finally.
down B.
Spike spotted B.
Finally. First blood. Now all I
Enemy
thirst
kill.
for is the blood of my enemies.
Embarrassing.
One enemy enemy remaining.
2 kills? What? Oh my gosh. I'm cracked.
Gun here.
Yeah. Let's bring it back.
I don't know what gun this is, but I'll take it, sure. Oh, I get to keep the thing. Oh, so if you win, you get to keep your guns? Okay. Ah! Okay, well, skill and launch.
They've got nerve.
You're terrifying with that knife. Let's go, David.
Spike planted.
Oh. Okay, I'm not cracked. Okay, Agent Come, you are our only hope. Or 2 other players, but you're the one I'm watching right now. Agent Come.
One enemy remaining.
Oh, I shot him in the dick. That's just mean. That's adding insult to injury. Win a game because I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Come on, Jet. Me and you, we never lose. Let's do this.
My ult's not ready.
I don't know if I'm ready for winning. Like, do I just uninstall the game at that point? Like, am I done?
Fight!
Okay, David. Oh my goodness, Agent Come.
Careful.
Truly are the one that'll save us.
Spike planted.
Reloading.
No, you don't.
See ya. My ult's ready. Enemy spotted A.
Oh, well.
Enemy careful.
Last player standing.
I'm amped. Let's go. I got things to do.
Damn. I feel like a drug. I'm drugged. The only drug I've got is two people's worth of blood on my hands. Man, you really hate these like, Lotus things.
Someone's A. Someone's A.
Careful. Here. Reloading.
Last player standing. Spike planted. Flawless.
I think my aim is improving at a minimum. So
I survived obliteration. I will survive them.
I will survive. I will survive them.
Together!
What was that? Okay, David.
Come on,
Multiple enemies A.
Spike down A.
You want to play? Let's play.
Reloading.
Spike's A.
Open up the sky!
One enemy remaining.
Flash!
Yeah, don't get lit on fire.
Flash! Reloading.
Hey! Did it! Despacito.
Stay in range of my stim beacon, and we'll mow them down.
Hey, Despacito.
I got you, bruv.
One thing I don't like about this game is this countdown.
Someone's
phase.
A.
Like it's like the build up. It's kind of if you die too quickly, it feels like a lot of build up for very little payoff.
Spike down A.
Here. Enemy spotted. Careful.
Spike planted. Last player standing.
Oh, Turbo Sloth. That's a cool gun. That's a cool looking gun. I dig that. Oh, we got him.
Let them try to get
Pain is
through.
real. I don't know if these weapons are meta or not, but these are what I'm using. No chill, David. No chill.
Joke's over! You're dead!
Shit.
My ultimate is ready.
Oh my god, can you hear?
Someone.
I'm kind of afraid. I would say all of the effects are really good.
Last player standing.
Go.
Except for, her hair
Shadows traveling.
reaching out beyond Oh, that's kind of cool.
One enemy remaining.
Ooh.
Spike down. Defender spawn.
Turbo Sloth, are you cracked?
Cover going out.
30 seconds left.
Come on, Turbo Sloth.
Ten seconds left.
Haha.
You forget your place.
Sounds a little edgy.
Omen, you're not even winded. You sure you're human?
You're allowed to be edgy, I guess, if you win. That's the rule.
Shadows traveling. Disappear. Cover going out.
Spike planted.
My ultimate is ready.
One enemy remaining. Last player standing.
Together, we will bury them under their transgressions.
I don't know what they did. What transgression are we talking about?
I'm buying. I'm saving. Someone's A. Joke's over! You're dead!
Multiple enemies A. Enemy spotted A.
Ooh.
Blocking sight.
Spike down A.
Shadows traveling. Silence.
Reloading.
Last player standing. One enemy remaining.
Kind of great.
Cover going out.
Getting a phone call. I guess I can take it. Hey, Nevin, how's it going?
Time to stock back up.
No, I have the day off. I'm actually, I've decided to start Twitch streaming. So
I need a
Twitch
drop.
streaming right now. Well, one person is. I think it's Christina. But I don't know. She's at work, so if she is watching while at work, then she's, you know, she shouldn't be. Not bad. You know, I have an interview for a new job, which I will not talk about right now because just in case other people, I don't want to dox myself by accident.
Bunch of guys, A.
Spike
Oh, that's
down.
awesome.
Attacker spawn.
What kind of job is it for?
Spike is in attacker spawn.
What would you be serving, or what would you be doing?
Careful.
Okay.
Get out of my way.
There's good tips in catering if you do a good job, so it's not a bad job.
Spike here.
Yeah.
For you. Enemy spotted A.
30 seconds left.
That makes sense.
Jets grounded. Enemy spotted A.
One enemy remaining. Last player standing.
Yeah, no, it's like I will say it's like for a marketing or not marketing. It's for service gig. Oh, I won. Kind of. I still died. So I'm playing Valorant.
Last round before the switch.
Halftime. Don't save a thing.
Valorant. It's like an arena shooter that's like free to play. It's pretty popular if you go online. Yeah, it's PC. I think you can stream Switch games, but I'd have to have like a whole setup for it. So
Cheers.
that's a future idea potentially.
Here, shadows traveling. Reloading.
Oh yeah, we actually saw the Barbie movie yesterday.
Return
Blocking
to
sight.
So I'm a
You will not kill my ally.
Night, night. Enemy spotted B. Reloading.
Healing.
I think
You want to play? Let's
I
play.
think I think obviously it's not complicated, you know, high level of male and female inequity or whatever. It's
Spike
not
planted.
it's not an essay. You know, it's a movie. I do think it's pretty good. I think for like if you understand its target audience to be sort of this like, you know, tween to young adult girls, you know, maybe like ages 12 to 18 or 12 to 22 or something. If that's its target audience, I think it's a
Your
really
duty is not over.
Let's go for a second.
Oh, somebody has a reply. Oh, interesting. So,
One enemy remaining.
Down.
on the other hand, I do think I can predict the kind of criticism this movie is going to get already.
Well done.
And it's going to be basically a result of
Wall
male
race.
The
characters.
light is blinding.
Switching sides.
Who am I kidding? My knees are gonna kill
Okay.
after this.
Yeah. So was it just with Dylan you saw it? So the bros go and watch the Barbie movie. That's funny. You've talked about Trina before.
Here. 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 Shadows traveling.
Spike drop.
Reloading.
Spike's here.
Yeah.
Reloading.
Yeah.
Cover going out.
She was like, I've already seen it, but I'll see it again just because I liked it so much. She's super excited.
Spike down A.
Shadows traveling.
For you.
Last player standing.
I went with Christina, so it wasn't like.
Look at me.
It wasn't.
I know that I am by your side.
Yeah. Oh, was he like a bit of what's the word I want? Was he like a Ben Shapiro type?
Kinda, like it's not like he was like saying full sentences or anything, but like shit would go down, like he would just like bury his face in his shit, like during you know like where
Plant the spike.
Here. Shadows traveling.
I thought that was like. Sorry, I'm sorry. You finish. I'll comment in a moment.
Quiet.
Enemy here.
Race into the spike sites.
And the thing is like there were certain parts where even I was like kind of rolling my eyes like, okay, whatever, like, you know. But like when me and Dylan walked out of the movie, I asked him, I was like, what did you like think of it? And he was like, it wasn't very good. It's not funny. I thought it was gonna be funnier, right? And he was like, what did you think about it? And I was like, I thought it was fine, but I basically said what you said, which is I was like, I feel like just from experiencing that guy next to me alone, plus just my
Here.
like, someone's A. Dudes on the internet and enemy spotted A. What the reaction to this movie
Watching here.
Enemy spotted A. Like I already can tell like that this is gonna be
Here.
like before I read a single review, I think I can like reviews. Like it's gonna be like this is like a man-hating movie, or like this is like a movie that's like women rule the world, like we have no problems. And then I looked at some reviews and it literally was like exactly those
Yeah.
things.
Cover going out.
It's not hard to
Three killed.
that's like what some people would take away from this movie.
One enemy remaining.
My ultimate is ready. Stealing sight.
A.
I don't know. I don't know. I think I won a game. Oh no, the game's not over. Oh my goodness, how many rounds is this game? No, we run a round, but how many rounds is this game out? This is crazy. So I see. It's one of those things where I think I'm sort of two opinions. So like I said, I mentioned that I think it's funny actually. I think the movie is genuinely quite funny. I think a lot of the jokes land quite well. Obviously, if you're going into this movie, and this is like
I'll click that jet's wings.
And I turned off any anti-feminist, not that I'm an anti-feminist, but I turned off any anti-feminist like mentality I
Blocking sight.
right? Because I was like, okay, I just want to experience this movie. I want to have a good time. Christina really wants to watch it, so I don't want to watch the Barbie movie and like, you know. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to go in expecting to hate it. I want to go in with the possibility of it being good, and then if it is good, then that's great. I have a good time. And I think it was good. I thought there were actually a couple parts that made me a little bit emotional.
Joke's over! You're dead!
The B plot, sort of Barbie. The B plot of Barbie learning what it means to be human, and then choosing to be spoilers for the Barbie movie, I guess. I still, yeah, to the one person watching. Like, you know, I thought the B plot of her learning to be human was actually kind of a like B plot that was actually surprisingly well.
Last player standing.
Of, like this sort of mass appeal, you know.
I thought that was a good. I thought that was an interesting part of the movie. I think that
You man ready for a light show?
world where like you're like everyone there is like very used to everything being exactly the same every day all the time.
Yeah.
And then her experiencing the real world, which is like, you know, obviously in comparison very random and like, you know, like one of the lines I really liked was like, I forget exactly how it goes, but like, you know, the old lady that you find out at the end is like the original.
This is gonna be fun.
Like when she's like talking to her in that earlier scene, and she's like,
Shadows traveling.
very uncomfortable and all that stuff.
Many enemies A.
I don't think that's how she said it, but like, you know,
No, I know exactly the line you're. Like,
Watch your eyes!
Reloading.
That's done. My ultimate's ready.
Reloading.
Watch your eyes!
Wall raised.
Cover going out.
Light planted.
Stealing sight. Reloading.
like actually some substance. And then what I thought is like, you know, that's the filmmakers and stuff didn't have to take it to that place, right?
Stay down.
ult's ready. Here.
Shadows traveling.
One enemy remaining.
Reloading.
Thing, right? From what I had seen in like trailers and stuff like that, it seemed like maybe it was gonna be more like that than what it ended up being. Because I remember when I saw the trailers and stuff, I just remember seeing like, a lot of like plastic pieces and like, you know, stuff like that. I was like, oh, so it's gonna be like a movie that takes
Ultimately,
place.
that's the thing is like you can never fully remove that critique because ultimately, you know, this movie will always be something that does sell Barbies, right? Like young women will go, you know, they will watch this. Even as a joke, some adults will even buy Barbies. Like I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing, you know, the Pokemon card problem happen with Barbies because of this.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I know it's all in service of just marketing the
But
product, so.
and that's why I thought some of the like anti-corporate commentary fell a little flat, and I thought that's the one thing where it's like the sort of corporate feminist commentary I thought fell like much more flat than the rest of the movie did. But I don't know. Ultimately, again, I think if you remove sort of the way it treats men. And I don't think it even treats men all that badly, to be frank. I just think it doesn't treat...
I like, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but like, yeah, that seems to be such a common complaint. Online reviews and stuff. It's like a single man in this movie is like, what to root for and blah 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 and stuff. I'm sorry, like, if you're like watching that movie and your masculinity is like...
Yeah.
You will not kill my allies!
Joke's over!
Yeah.
You're dead!
I do think though it is unfortunate because I think they had one of the sub-commentaries in this movie was sort of a broad, you know, discussion of toxic masculinity. And I hate that term, toxic masculinity.
Come on, let's go!
I think that was one of the okay, he died.
Last player standing.
Right, was to discuss that.
Clutch.
And I think it does a really good job because they do this thing where they effectively say, so Ken, like, he goes to the real world, he learns what patriarchy is or whatever.
I'm not
and then
tired.
The reason he adopts patriarchy isn't because of, you know, outside expectations. Maybe the outside expectations that he bees with Barbie. But it's not. He doesn't adopt patriarchy because, you know, like, he's a bad person or because, which I'm not saying most men are. I'm just saying, like, he doesn't have a good reason. His reason for adopting patriarchy is that Barbie doesn't want to go on a date with him.
Don't hold back.
That's such a shallow commentary on the state of men. Like, sure, there are a lot of men who become, you know, misogynistic or whatever because they have bad experiences with women. Like, I'm not denying that reality. But, like, for a lot of men who become, you know, annoying, frustrating people to deal with, it's because of problems at home. It's because, you know, their parents, their grandparents, their owners are all assholes, and they just learn from the people around them. Like... And I think that's a really reductionist and almost a very misinterpreted the same guy who's killing him. And it's a very, I think, misinterpreted perspective.
Last player standing.
Strike at their weak points. If one link breaks, the rest will follow.
Well, and I see, the one thing is, if I do reduce the complaint, because one thing I was thinking, right, is so we do live in a time and place where this type of misogyny has been increasing, right? The Andrew Tate kind of, the Andrew Tate leftovers, you know, a lot of this workout culture. I'm kind of torn.
You want to play? Let's play.
Culture, I think, has been because it's gotten a lot more people into fitness, which is better for mental health. It's better for
shadows traveling.
It's better for regular health. I think people in general are a lot happier if they go to the gym at least once a week. The move. But there's certain misogyny that comes in certain parts of that space as well.
Reloading.
fuck the same guy as always.
Cover going out.
So
Flash!
Impossible. One enemy remaining.
No, it's fine. I actually think it's kind of funny to have this.
Spike down A.
Reloading.
Yeah. If anything, you should download Discord. So
Last player standing.
Looks like I was the stronger one.
No, you can get Discord on your phone. I use it on my phone all the
Match
time.
point.
That's usually like the.
One more win. I'm getting out for drinks, lads.
Reloading.
It's kind of it's a little bit like WhatsApp in the sense that it's sort of like you know, everybody has an account, you can make group chats, but it's got like more options, so you can like create like a server where you can have like different sub chats and different voice chats and stuff. It's very popular in the gaming space. But yeah, so if I look at the Ken problem through that angle, you know, there is a legitimate critique because I think there's a lot of shallow, unfortunate behavior that a lot of men do, sort of
blocking
with
sight.
the goal of attracting women. I don't know. Maybe this is just like hashtag marry people perspective because you know I don't have to grind. And I can't imagine. I honestly can't imagine what it would be like to be 26 and like grinding to get a long-term partner. Yeah, exactly. Like I feel like I'm destined for. I mean, I'm not saying I'm gonna deal with it the way Ken deals with it, but like, it's like. Yeah,
One enemy remaining.
Well, like the thing is like him. I do feel like when the movie was coming to an end and Ken kind of like confesses to her like, oh, don't try harder.
Attackers win.
Do not fight us again.
I thought that, you know, we were really, I thought we were only a team and I don't see myself as separate from you or whatever, right? Like, that part of the movie, when I was watching it, I was like, okay, like, I can't personally relate to that in the sense, like, I've never, like, been, like, so into somebody.
You wanna,
like,
so, fun facts, we won the game, and, I got 5 kills, which is 5 more kills than I've gotten in any game so far I've been playing today.
So you've been getting 0 kills up until this point?
This is like my 3rd or 4th match, yeah.
Oh, okay, well, good job.
Yeah, victory.
That's a pretty steep increase.
What do we got? So let's equip that. Yeah, I see. I really found that frustrating though when she was like, yo, you just need to like think of yourself a little bit more, man. Like, I don't know. I think the part that I found really frustrating is that like I think the part that was really frustrating is we didn't see a lot of like interaction between the men, right? So it's like the women were really empowering to each other. All the women were like, all the Barbies were like, yeah, you go girl, yeah, like you be powerful, you like be an individual, we love you in whatever you're doing, which is, you know, that's awesome, that's great. But I feel like if there could have been some sort of way to add that into the Kens at the end, as well, again, I'm not saying, this is where I have to kind of like think, okay, this movie isn't for me, it's not really a movie for men, even if men can go and watch it. Because like at the end, when sort of the Kens get relegated to what turns out to be second-class status in Barbie land, and that's like presented as kind of like a joke or a good thing, I was kind of like, I don't know if, like, they play it off as a joke. They're like, I think the narrator's like, and one day the Kens may even achieve the current status of women in the real world. And I think it's like a joke where it's like, oh, you know, women aren't fully equal, lol, rip, sucks to be men in this world. But I'm like, I don't know, I don't think the morals of that really work, you know? It's like, these are 2 different worlds with 2 different histories. Like, I'm not saying, you know, Kens should be allowed to be horse enthusiasts or whatever, but like, give him a house or something. Like, what's going on? Where does he live?
I think that the thing that I didn't like about that is that, so I was kind of saying, I was saying this to Della too when we were talking about it. It's like, there's such a thing, I feel like, as like understanding that obviously on some level, like because of the hard hardships that you or your group has been through or whatever, that like this feeling that you're owed more. I get that, right? But I do think that there's something to be said, and I know it's not what anybody wants to hear, but it's like, it's just, at the end of the day, it's just, I truly believe it. There's something to be said about just taking the high road and not going in that vengeful route just because you feel that that's what you're owed, right? Like, I would have appreciated the movie a lot more, and I get that I'm a guy saying this, so maybe it's like a skewed opinion, but I would have liked the movie more if the Ken had come up to her and been like, oh, can we have like at least one Ken on the Supreme Court or whatever and stuff, and she was like, honestly, yeah, like let's get some Kens in here.
Yeah, see, that was a weird, that was, okay, they kept bringing up the Supreme Court thing. This was like one of the common, like, jokes they make in the movie, where the Supreme Court comes up over and over again. And I'm like, there literally are women on the Supreme Court. There have been for years, at least the American Supreme Court and the Canadian one. Like, there are women on the Supreme Court. Is it equal? Not quite. Sure, like, we can acknowledge that. Is it, you know, have women ever made the majority? By no means. No, of course not. But, like, there actually are just women on the Supreme Court. Like, some of them are good. One is somewhat evil. Like, you know, like, I don't understand what point they picked if they wanted to make a commentary on the legal system, or like societal discrimination against women, I really think the legal system was a poor avenue to do that with.
I know, yeah, they like hyper-focused on that specific thing, and it's not,
and it really,
reflective of the real world.
It really, like, the problem I think with this movie, again, is that it keeps, like, defaulting to these ideas of representation, and representation's important. You know, it's like I remember the discussions people were having about the what's it called, the Little Mermaid movie, where they were like, oh, you know, now little black girls can see themselves in Ariel. I'm like, sure, that's awesome, you know, like, if that helps little black girls see themselves in a Disney princess, I'm all for it, whatever. It literally doesn't matter. But at the same time, representation is not the be-all and end-all of equality. Representation can help, especially in institutional settings. Yeah, it's a good indicator, and it can help in certain institutional settings. You know, if I was a politician on some sort of provincial or state board, right, and I was deciding, you know, women's reproductive health policies for the region, you know, I would probably want some women on the board, because, like, there's gonna be things that I just miss. There's gonna be things that I just don't get, because, like, I don't have this firsthand experience of being a woman, right? So, like, representation does have value, but again, it's not the be-all, end-all. And it's also, even if it is the be-all, end-all, the Supreme Court is not the example you want to use. Like, the president one was a much better example, because there hasn't been a female president in the United States.
I think the way the movie was trying to go about it was like, oh, here are like these pillars of society, like the Supreme Court, the presidency, like blah blah blah. And then in our Barbie world, it's all women. So like drawing contrast between, even though in the real world, like you said, it's not like the Supreme Court is exclusively men. It's like, oh, like this is the opposite of it. Well, that's the other thing, right? Is that the one big thing throughout the movie is that Barbie Land is supposed to be the opposite of the patriarchy.
Yeah.
It's the matriarchy. It's like, it's very much like, this is a women's society, the men play a secondary role, it's the opposite of real life or whatever and stuff, right? Like, that's why, like, the whole point of the Ken patriarchy thing or whatever is that he comes to the real world and is like, this is like Barbie Land, but for men, right? Like, so this is great. Like, you know, like, now we get to take center stage or whatever, and we're no longer, like, just waiting around for the Barbies. And you're like, okay, cool, like, I get that, like, that's fine. But, I mean, and you know, like, the little stupid things that I'm sure people will get mad about or whatever, like, didn't bother me at all. Like, when they first get there and like some of the men are gross to Barbie or whatever and stuff, I was like, fine, whatever, right? Like,
yeah, I was like,
I was her butt or whatever and stuff. I'm like, okay, I doubt that would happen right away in the real world, but sure, okay, fine. Like, that's, you know,
like, the thing about it is, like, even if it is uncommon, it does happen. It does.
Yeah,
It genuinely does happen.
It does happen. Yeah, it's like I know, like it's not like an unheard of thing.
Yeah.
Or like the construction workers being like gross or whatever and stuff.
The thing we have to remember is that this is a movie, and they're trying to make like a certain point, and often in like often in the like the film medium, they make an exaggerated point of real things in order to like sort of exemplify like. You really tell people what it's like, because we also, in a sense, Barbie has to kind of play catch up on what it's like to be a woman in the real world.
In a patriarchy.
Yeah, because she has lived in Barbie land all of her life. Normal women, maybe they get one slap on their ass sometime every year or whatever. I don't know what the rate would be. I don't even know if I really want to know what the rate would.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Like, it's like because it does happen, and Barbie is new to it. It's like you have to illustrate this idea that she's in a man's world or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's all fine. That's all good. But the thing that I thought was confusing is Ken, like, there's a few instances where Ken goes to places and tries to get a job right away, and he thinks that he's just going to get the job because he's a guy and he's in a patriarchy or whatever and stuff. But then all those people are like, no, like, we can't just give you a job just because you're a man or whatever and stuff. Like, the nurses, the doctor at, like, the hospital or whatever is like, no, like, I'm not gonna let you do surgery. And, like, the lifeguard's like, I'm not gonna let you just be a lifeguard or whatever and stuff, right? And it's like, basically, if it was, to me, the confusing thing is, like, you would think that he would learn through that, oh, okay, so just because we're in a patriarchy or whatever, it doesn't mean that it's just men rule everything or whatever. You still need to have like certain qualifications and stuff. But essentially he just like after like 5 minutes there and like learning that like in a general sense men are more often in charge, he's like, okay, I'm gonna take this idea. And that's the other thing that confused me too, like, is that Barbie comes back to Barbie land and all the Barbies are suddenly very submissive and stuff, right? And you're like, oh, it's because Ken brought the patriarchy to Barbie land. And I'm like, okay, sure, he even brought his stereotypical patriarchy that's not even really like the real world, like his version of patriarchy. Why did all the Barbies all of a sudden just submit to that? Like, how did he manage to like psychologically change all of them so that they had to be like reset by like, Barbie and like her team of feminists or whatever and stuff, like the mom, like being like, oh, okay, like I'll just say these things, like, like that scene where she's like turning them all back to normal by like pulling them aside and being like saying some feminist stuff or whatever, and then they'll be like, what the fuck, like, where am I and stuff. I didn't get that. Like, I get it for the story, but I didn't get how it all works. Like, I'm like, this is a strange...
Well, they kind of have an offhand comment where they're like, oh, the Barbies, because they don't have, feminism and they haven't lived in the real world, they don't have any immunity to the patriarchy. And they make kind of a joke. It's like it's an offhand comment. They're like, oh, it's like indigenous people when they came into contact with Europeans, how like they all got super sick and died because they didn't have any immunity.
Shit, do they say that?
Yeah, they literally make that like, it's like when they discovered that all of the women have been like bimbified or whatever. Which I really didn't like how extreme they went with the bimbification, because like that's literally a fetish, and the internet's gonna fucking run with it. Like, that's literally a fetish for men and women. Like,
it's the thing that is kind of a shame to me about the whole movie is that there are certain things that they're saying in the movie that I actually think are like pretty poignant and nuanced and like way beyond what I would expect from a Barbie movie.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is like that's the one thing I do want to give Barbie, is that I went in expecting schlop and it was not schlop. And I do think if I remove, wider political goals that might be in there, if I sort of pretend like this movie isn't going to create social change in substantial ways, but I can look at it and say this movie might encourage young women and empower them and make them feel more independent, make them feel more able to, deal with their own, deal with their problems themselves and not rely on men and this kind of thing. Like that's great. That's
yeah, no, that is good, and I think that it's unfair for us as a society to like shit on Barbie when, obviously these other groups are getting movies that are supposed to kind of bring their perspectives and like, like I kind of said this as a joke after Barbie, but I think to an extent it's true. It's like Barbie's kind of like the Black Panther of like feminism, right? It's like it went from being like a movie to being like a movement almost.
Yeah.
Where like all these women are like, yes, fine. Like the thing is like a lot of the reviews that I've seen online that are by women are like finally a movie where I feel like I feel heard. Like, I feel like the issues that I go through or whatever and stuff are being put on display or whatever for everyone to see. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, so like you were saying, like, I'm all for that. I'm happy for those women or whatever that get to watch a movie that really highlights these issues that otherwise would maybe go unnoticed or whatever, or like not, or kind of would be undermined, right? So that's fine. Like, I think that that's all really good. But like, I think that when you have a movie that's like, my favorite, probably one of my favorite parts, if not my favorite part of the movie, is actually kind of the end of that monologue that the mom gives, because it kind of put the whole movie, it kind of made the whole movie make sense to me, because when she's explaining it, she's like, it's really hard to be a woman and all this stuff, and I saw all these men around me, like, rolling their eyes, like, all just, like, fucking, like, oh, so this shit, like, you know, a woman explaining why it's hard being a woman or whatever and stuff, blah, blah, blah. But then, like, at the end of it, she says this thing where she's like, if we can't even escape these issues through the myopic lens of a doll, right, then, like, what chance do actual women have? And I was like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Like, that's, like,
That
really,
was
really poignant.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, that's because literally we're watching that in real time right now. There's so many people, like, Ben Shapiro is, like, one of the more famous people, but there's so many dudes on the internet who are, like, freaking out over this movie. Like, this movie is an assault on masculinity and stuff. And it's a movie about a doll. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it just makes the point that the filmmaker is trying to make, like, even more.
I think you know what I'm thinking. It's okay. This is a weird thought, but I'm thinking later in my stream today, you know, I might even just watch that Ben Shapiro video. This was gonna be a Valorant stream. Now this is a Barbie movie stream. Like,
I see. I haven't watched it yet, but I want to, just because, like, it's been so tough for me, because there's a part of me that wants to watch it, but then also I'm like, I don't want to give him, like, my attention or whatever and stuff. But the more I think about it, I'm like, it's gonna be fucking hilarious. Like, it's gonna be so funny. Like, because it's just gonna be him losing it. And apparently it's a long video. It's like 45 minutes.
Oh my
like,
god. Okay, dude, wait.
review.
Okay. Do you want to download Discord?
Yeah, I'll download on my phone.
Are you at home right now?
Yeah.
Okay, download Discord, and then I'll guide you through on like adding me as a friend, or I'll like tell you to I'll tell you, just don't tell me your username, just text it to me. I don't want to like dox you, and you don't want to dox me. And then I was like, why don't we watch the Ben Shapiro video together?
Okay.
I was thinking we could just like watch it at the same time, and then
It's probably will be more funny to watch it with someone.
yeah, and you could watch it. You could probably watch it through my stream, so we can watch it at like the same time.
Yeah, I'm down. Honestly, it's
basically.
I saw there's like a picture that he posted before he posted the review, where it was like, my producer, I don't know if you saw it already, but he's like, my producers like forced me to see Barbie, and like tune in soon for my review of like why it's a train wreck or whatever. And then he posted a video of him burning Barbie dolls.
That's awesome. Like, that's so good.
I was like, man, like, way to really hit the point home that you didn't like the movie, like burning actual, and that's just such a classic fucking like Ben Shapiro self-own, I feel like, because it's like, okay, you're burning Barbie dolls, but you know what you had to do to burn them? Go and buy them first, right? Like, you're trying to shit on Barbie by giving them more money. Like, I don't understand what his mentality was, unless his daughters just already had Barbie dolls, in which case he's just a terrible dad, because he took their toys and burned them. So I feel like either way, you know, it doesn't reflect on him very well. But it's Ben Shapiro, so I don't know what I was expecting. Wait, I think it's downloading now.
Okay, so now it'll like prompt you to like make a username.
Just give me a second, I have to put in some info.
Okay, what was I gonna get? Well, let me bring up this Ben Shapiro video while we're talking. I'm also gonna probably close Valorant for now. But, like, the way it changes the like resolution of my screen is kind of weird. Okay. Oh, let me actually. Um. It's like I'm putting my phone down, but I still have you on speaker.
Okay, so I'm in now. So what do I do?
Okay, so you've made an account. Text me your username. Ben Shapiro destroys the Barbie movie for 43 minutes. That's awesome. Okay.
Actually that long? Yeah, I heard it's like a long review.
Okay, that is my favorite thing. Okay, let me. Okay. Um. Okay. So you've texted me your username.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, gotcha. I'll add you. No, don't pop up on this screen. Not that it matters that much. Okay. There's no numbers or anything? Okay, you should have a friend request now.
Sadistics now, is that good?
Yeah. Oh, I wish I hadn't said that out loud, but it doesn't matter. There's no number.
Oh, fuck, sorry.
It's fine. I have an old Discord username, so mine still has numbers.
Oh, okay.
So it's whatever. Okay, cool. So I'll hang up and then I'll call you on Discord. You're muted, by the way. No, no, he hung up. Okay. Hello, hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you now what I want you to do, I want to make sure that we can, like, your voice is going through the stream as well.
Yeah.
So could you go onto Twitch and make sure that your voice is heard through the thing?
How do I go to Twitch?
Oh, actually, I think it is because it's triggering the sound thing at the bottom of my screen. I have a little,
Okay.
I have like an application for running Twitch and all that.
All right. So can I switch it to a video now?
Sorry, what?
Do I switch it to a video now, or
Switch what to a video?
like this call? Like, is that how that works, or?
No, let's just both open the Barbie movie. Actually, we should probably just both open it and then start playing at the same time.
Well, folks, I just...
Okay.
Just look up, like, go on your own computer or your phone or something.
Yeah. I wonder if his is like the most viewed review. I wouldn't be surprised.
It probably is. Also, I just updated my stream to a just chatting stream because I'm like, well, maybe I'll play Valorant again later. I don't know. Doesn't matter. I don't know. I'm just winging it at this point.
Okay, so I'm watching it now, and the beginning of this video is literally him burning the Barbies.
Oh, is it? Okay, so don't hit play. I'm at 0-0. Like, okay, so.
Okay, wait. I just switched it to 0-0 now.
Okay, so 3, 2, 1, start.
Well, folks, I just got back from the theaters seeing Barbie and Oppenheimer. I'm about to review both of them. I'm going to tell you which one of these is the best blockbuster of 2023 and which one is maybe the worst.
I know, yeah.
Right, Ken?
For those of you who can't wait that long, I'm going to give my review of the Barbie movie in the most Oppenheimer fashion.
What the Run.
This is a grown man burning dolls.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna pause it for a sec.
Yeah.
That's kind of fire. Like, not that is literally fire, but like that's actually really funny. I'm like, so I was watching this. I was watching a clip from a Steven Crowder, what's it called? Podcast? I don't know what his show is called. But he was doing this sketch. So Steven Crowder's apparently been accused of like exposing his genitals to a bunch of his like current and former employees. And apparently it's not like a one-time thing. It's like he just repeatedly like whips his dick out. And so they did this sketch where like an HR person like is like, yo, you like can't be doing this, like you need to behave yourself, and he's like, oh no, okay, I'm sorry, you know. And they go through like a bunch of his like, you know, the things that he pretends like the libs care about, like, you know, like you shouldn't do this, and he's like, oh okay, that's reasonable, I won't, you know, be a mean person here or there or whatever. And then at the end of it he's like, okay, wait, can you, like, he looks at the HR guy and he's like, yo, can you like come here for a sec and like just look down here, I want to show you something under my desk. And he's like, oh yeah, what is it? And then he's like, oh, that's your testicle. And the joke is like, oh, then he exposed himself to his HR person. And like I was watching like the H3 podcast respond to it, and they were like, oh, that's not funny, that's tasteless, that's just... I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna say he's not a bad person, because he is, but that's kind of really funny. That's a really funny gag, because it's like so tone deaf, it almost loops back to being funny and ironic.
Yeah, I think the best chances that guys like this have of being really funny is when they do that.
Yeah.
They're not actually funny, but they go so ridiculously far out of their way to like shit on things or like do stuff like that, and then it kind of like becomes funny again.
It almost becomes funny because you're like, what the fuck? Like, how did you think that's okay? Like, it's like funny in like in not the way they intended it. Obviously, I don't think he actually showed his testicle to this fake AHR guy. I think that was just like a gag, because they don't, obviously you don't see it on camera. Anyway, I'm gonna hit play again. I'm at 40 seconds.
Oh, I'm at 41 seconds. So I'll press play now.
Okay.
So the things I do for my audience, my producers dragged me to go see Barbie the movie, and I have thoughts. This video is sponsored by ExpressVPN. Let me begin with my generalized assessment of the movie. This movie is not just a piece of shit. This movie is a flaming piece of dog shit piled atop an entire dumpster on fire, piled atop a landfill filled with dog shit. It is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. On every possible level, it is.
I'd like to believe that even though they're bleeping it, he's still just saying like S word.
Production design's really nice. The costumes are really nice. Also, it's really hard to screw that up. It's really hard to screw that up because you literally have this to model after. All you have to do is this, but big. Okay, it's really not tough. But put aside all of the beautiful costumes, which is there for the ladies, and all of the production design and the Barbie universe and all of that.
You're not allowed to wear that.
Every joke that happens in this film happens basically within the first 45
seconds. It's like he takes looks sometimes that I'm like, on anybody else that would actually look good, but on you it looks
bad. In Barbie house, there's no actual water. Do you get it? And then she drinks, but there's no actual liquid in the actual cup. Oh my God, because she's a Barbie doll. Oh, I get it. Okay, that's all the jokes. There are no more jokes for the rest of the film.
Funny jokes.
The movie's a show. Okay, so conceptually, the movie is a show. I want to ask this. Who is the intended audience for this film? Who's the intended audience for this film? So I'll tell you who the intended audience for this film is. I can tell two ways. One, the previews on the film, and two, the people in the audience. So the intended audience for this film is moms and their 8-year-old daughters. That's the intended audience for the film. I know because the previews for the film were all kids' movies. I'm talking like G or PG rated kids' films. We're talking like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Trolls 4 or whatever it is. Those were all the previews, right? All the previews are...
Yeah.
My problem with that is, like, there's just no other movies coming out. Like, those have been the previews for every movie I've seen recently. Like, I went to see... what came out recently? Into the Spider-Verse. I guess that's also kind of a kid's movie. I saw a live action movie recently as well. I'm trying to remember what I ended up seeing, but like every time I've gone to
Guardian.
Pardon?
I said Guardians, but I guess that's kind of a long time ago.
Well, no, but the Guardians too. I saw commercials for the Trolls movie. Like it's like there's just no other movies coming out this year. Like studio.
Yeah, this is a pretty slow year for movies. Like,
well, we're still,
it's pretty much like
movies take a couple of years to create, and we're only like a year or two out of COVID. So it's like, yeah, like that's just what movies are. Like that.
And also that doesn't. I feel like that is not a good way to figure out what the target audience is of the movie you're watching.
Yeah.
Just like the trailers that play in front of it, like that doesn't mean anything. Like I could be watching a different kids movie and have the Barbie movie trailer come before it, and that wouldn't mean that the target audience of the movie I'm watching is the same as the Barbie movie. Like I don't know. That's a dumb point, I feel like, to make.
Yeah, I agree. I think like this is the kind of thing where that Ben Shapiro does, and a lot of these other commentators, left and right, but in the moment I'm talking about right wingers, they love to do is where they like poison the well before the conversation even starts. It's like if you want to talk about the point of this, actually, sorry, I don't even want to predict. Like we should watch more of this video because
all right.
It's a 42-minute video. See if we even get through the full thing.
I know we're like 2.5 minutes in, and we're already like, "What the fuck is he talking about?"
Actually, okay, 3, 2, 1.
Actually directed at what the audience is supposed to be for this film. And if you look in the audience, it's a bunch of moms, like youngish moms, middle-aged moms, with their like 6, 7, 8-year-old girls. That's the entire crew. This movie is not made for any of those people. In fact, this movie is made for no one. This movie,
I didn't see primarily only
the
that.
marketing effort has been extraordinary. I mean, whoever's the marketing team over at Warner Brothers is doing an amazing job. Week 1, this thing is going to clean up at the domestic box office. My prediction is going to just absolutely fall off a cliff after that. The repeat business on this movie is going to be non-existent because it was written by two people who are so smug and self-satisfied, in Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, that they have no audience. I mean, like, who thought it's a great idea? Let's bring on the people who wrote Lady Bird and Marriage Story to make a movie about a plastic doll.
That's the funny thing is they're going to talk so much about how this movie is such a failure. Right now, it's doing financially so well at the box office. It's made like 600,000 in like its first. I mean,
as a fascist emblem,
600 million in like its first week.
The premise of the film, politically speaking, is that men and women are on two sides of a divide, and they hate each other. And literally, the only way you can have a happy world is if the women ignore the men and the men ignore the women.
I'm pausing at 3:33. This is the kind of thing where it's like he's like, "Yo, this movie, this movie's awful. Like nobody's going to see it." And I'm like, "Dude, like just because like he goes to his friends. This is a classic thing, right? It's the echo chamber nonsense where he goes to his friends like, "Have you seen the Barbie movie? No. Have you seen the Barbie movie? No, no. Well, nobody's going to see this movie then. No, I don't know anybody who's seeing this movie. Like, do you know anybody who's seeing this movie? No, because we're all conservative. Like, I'm words I can't say while being recorded. Like,
no, I know. Yeah, it's like you assume that everybody feels the same as like the people that you're directly like talking to or whatever. Like you're like, and especially if you're conservative, the only people if you're like ultra conservative or whatever and stuff, the only people that are going to willingly go and watch Barbie are people who are intending to hate watch it, or like, you're like, okay, I guess I'll give it a chance just to see, but you're expecting not to like it. Like, I can't imagine there'll be a ton of like ultra conservatives who are just genuinely excited to see this movie and like are like anticipating that it will be really good.
Yeah.
I don't want to generalize, but I just feel like if you're anywhere near the level of Ben Shapiro, I can't imagine you're like really genuinely excited to see this movie.
Yeah. Sorry, we should probably continue playing. It's just kind of...
Yeah.
This man... Anyway, sorry. I'm going to hit play in 3, 2, 1, play.
That seems to be the final outcome of this film. I was trying to separate this into problems with plot and problems with character and problems with the politics of the film, but they're all intertwined because the thing is just a mess. It doesn't make any sense. Plot-wise, it makes no sense. Character-wise, it makes no sense. So let's just go through it from the beginning. Okay, there's going to be lots of spoilers, but believe you me, I'm about to save you so much time because this movie is 2 hours. It feels like it is longer than the Wagnerian ring cycle. It does not end. Every scene is at least 2 minutes too long. Every single scene, every beat is 2 minutes too long. It is a bad film. put aside the politics. Like, really, I was sitting there with a bunch of my producers. I'm a little bit more political than my producers. My producers were watching this, putting the politics aside. It is a bad movie. So why is it getting 91% on Rotten Tomatoes? Because the way that it works for the reviewers is if you have the right politics, and those politics are sufficiently slyly inserted, then it will get a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, even if the thing is just wrecked.
Critique.
And I mean, boy, is this dreck. This is a Death Star sized piece of dreck. It is like, that's no moon. That's a dreck station. That is that this movie. Okay, so let's jump into it. I have like pages and pages of notes on this horrific piece of shit. I mean, my goodness. Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. So it's, from the beginning, you know what this movie is going to be, and it's going to be a very cynical take on what Barbie is, which is so weird. I don't know why Mattel would turn over its IP to filmmakers who clearly hate the IP. It's as though you were going to make Toy Story, except that toys are all evil. They're all bad, and you're supposed to hate them and you should burn them.
Awesome. I want
because
that
that's
movie.
kind of the message of the film, is that the Barbies are bad for the world. Okay, so it begins by trying to uphold the original vision of Barbie. What was the original magical vision of Barbie? We have Helen Mirren here to tell us in the form of a narrator apparently played by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who's speaking from heaven. And we get a 2001 A Space Odyssey flashback, which again, who's the audience for this? Like the reference points in this film, it references variously Marcel Proust.
I knew that's what it was referencing, but I've never seen the movie.
Godfather. It references 2001 A Space Odyssey. This is a movie made for moms and their 7-year-old girls.
It was funny and clever.
Well, folks, wasting 2 hours of my precious time, 2 hours I will never get back. 2 hours where on my deathbed, I will wish that I had not spent that time doing. Makes me viscerally angry. But I'm going to talk to you about something.
Yeah, it's the Barbie movie.
And that is our trusted privacy partner and premier sponsor of the show, ExpressVPN.
Okay, where's the ad end? I'm going to skip to 6:56. I'm not watching Ben Shapiro shill for ExpressVPN. You ready?
What timestamp do you have?
I skipped to 6:56.
Okay.
Got it. 3, 2, 1, play.
And she says that this could be fun, at least for a while anyway. Ask your mother, because your mother actually hates you and doesn't like being a mom, you see. So if you ask your mom, she wants to play at not being a mom sometimes. Okay, so the basic premise is Barbie is supposed to be the independent woman who liberates.
I mean, do you think that moms like only want to be moms all the time?
She's actually a tool of the patriarchal capitalist system. And two, the real world has rejected the message of Barbie, which is that women should run everything. Okay, so this is all not implicit. This is explicitly said at the beginning, the monologue.
Yeah. Only Ben Shapiro would think that like it's selfish for a mom to not want to be a mom 100% of the time.
That's one of the messages of the film. In the real world,
I'm pausing at like 7:38. This is like a classic, like, you know, it's like, oh well, you know, mothers should be in the home. They should be taking care of the kids. If they don't want to be a mom, well, that means they're a bad person, right? It's like his like previous opinions on like gender roles and all this kind of thing like play into it, and it's like, I don't know, like I don't want to do my full-time. I don't want to do my full-time job 24/7. You know, I like cooking, but I don't want to cook like, you know, all the time. There's a reason that Christina does the dishes, because like I do dishes at work. I find it exhausting. I want to break sometimes. Like. That's kind of
like any normal human. Like I don't know. These are the kind of complaints where I'm like, this is like a Ben Shapiro review, obviously, because it's like, you know, he's basically watching a movie about a mom saying like, hey, like every once in a while I like to just have fun by myself, and he's just like, what a bitch, like. What a terrible mother.
That mother in the movie who like keeps reaching out to her daughter no matter how rude her daughter is to you. Wow, what an asshole. She like,
I know, terrible mom.
The fact that she like, finds her daughter a little tiring sometimes, and she constantly brushes off her attempts at like being affectionate and, you know, like bonding as parent and child. What a bad person.
Yeah, that was actually an aspect of the movie that did kind of bother me, because the mom is just like, my daughter hates me and it sucks or whatever and stuff. And I'm like, I can see your daughter's annoying, honestly, but why does she hate you? Like, is there like, is it just a teenage? Like,
I think that's supposed to be like, that's a classic teenage problem. So many teenagers, whether it's because something bad happens to them or whether it's because, you know, they, you know, are just going through a phase or whatever. Like, so many teenagers go through that phase where they hate their parents. Like, that was like, I actually thought that was the best subplot in the movie, was the mother-daughter, going through these problems. Like I thought that was like
that
a really
that
good
part
film.
didn't bother me a lot because it's like I can sort of just be like, oh, okay, like it's just like a common thing, like teens have angst against their parents or whatever, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But like, but yeah, like the mom being like upset with like how boring her life is or whatever and stuff, like that was like super. I'm not a mom, but like I could relate to her struggle. Like it's like, oh, okay, like you're getting bored going through the motions and stuff or whatever. Like that should be such a universal, like easily understandable thing. But of course Ben Shapiro like sees that and he's like, I don't fucking get it. Like shouldn't you just be content all the time as a mother?
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna hit play.
Anyways, where are you at? 738?
I'm at 738, yeah. So
Okay.
3,
3,
2, 1.
2, 1.
Men run pretty much everything, which is weird. Who greenlit this piece of shit? I mean, Greta Gerwig is a lady. She's making a good living off of this. Margot Robbie is playing the lead. In fact, the entire cast, aside from basically
really
Ryan Gosling, is women. So it seems like
women
are
used to see her as, like, Harley Quinn, that I only saw her as
again,
like the one look.
beside the
but, like,
meta
her
logic of it,
costumes in this
I'm going to
movie
go through
were
like a lot of beats here.
incredible,
So it starts off with the idea that
It literally is
mommy
like
dolls are bad and
an
insufficient.
actual
But
living
then they
Barbie.
criticize Mattel
Yeah,
for
she was a
discontinuing
really
a
good
mommy
pick
doll
for
named
the lead
Midge.
actress.
Right? Midge is the pregnant doll and it was discontinued. They're like, that's bad. Wait, but hold on, you just said that dolls about motherhood are bad, but then this one, don't look for any sort of logical coherence. There is a Citizens United reference. They say all of the members of the Barbie Supreme Court are women.
Well,
and then they are speaking out about Citizens United. That corporations are not people.
Yeah.
It's literally a Citizens United reference. Who is the audience for this? Who is the 7-year-old girl who's like, yes, I too have a very informed perspective on the
I just
Citizens
noticed
United
my
decision.
battery
And then they say
is
that
pretty
logic
low.
and feeling at the same time. It doesn't diminish us. It
Yeah. But I'm down to do this. Do you want to maybe are you free tomorrow or are you working?
I do work. My plan is to stream from like probably like 2 to 5 tomorrow. But one thing we could do is like we could watch like more stuff about this, or we could just like if you wanted to game together or do something, like we can chat tomorrow.
Okay, why don't we do that? I do want to watch this because it seems already hilarious just from like the first 5 minutes. But yeah, I gotta give my phone some charging time. So I'll show you a text or something tomorrow, and we'll figure it out.
Oh, Christina is saying in chat that apparently I'm very quiet. Wonder how to fix that.
I can hear you fine, but you're on speaker for me, so.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just need to speak more clearly or something. I'll review the footage later.
All right, but yeah, why don't we chat tomorrow?
Nevin is loud in comparison. Oh, I see. I just have to turn him down. Whatever. Okay, I'll talk to you later, Nevin. I might watch the rest of this, or like watch some of it, and then.
Yeah. Watch the rest of it if you feel like it, and let me know if it just gets better. Because already I'm like pretty invested.
There's apparently another Ben Shapiro. I'm just gonna turn you down a little bit. There's apparently another Ben Shapiro like video where he's commenting on this, so we could watch that tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Oh, that's very quiet. Okay, I'll talk to you later.
Catch you later.
All right. Well, that was a guest appearance from my friend Nevin. Very funny guy. Okay, let's keep watching this. This is like incredible.
Proves that we are more than, right? It's all propagandistic. And then it sets up the dichotomy. The dichotomy is that men and women are in complete and utter contradistinction in terms of their roles. So women only exist if they are completely free of men, and men only exist if they are completely free of women. And the problem is set up for Ken, is that Ken is dependent on Barbie. Right? Because Ken is kind of secondary.
That is actually,
and we also set up at the very beginning
that is
that Barbie.
Actually one thing I think is like one of the biggest problems with the resolution of the movie is I think that like I think Ken's character arc is really weird in the sense that he is motivated to do patriarchy because he is too obsessed with Barbie. And like I was saying earlier, like there are a lot of ways in which, bad experiences with women, like a lot of, young teenage boys, they become incels or they sort of join this incel chat group movement or whatever. They join it because they have a lot of trouble with women. They think that society expects them to, get girls and, lose your virginity at 16. And if you're not doing that, you're not as cool of a person. You're not very like impressive or whatever. Like, that is a fair critique, but I think part of it is, I think, like a mounting patriarchy and a mounting misogyny to that sole motivation, I think is a really, I think it weighs down on the film, and I think it weakens its critique of like toxic masculinity overall.
She doesn't like Ken. She finds Ken annoying. She finds Ken ridiculous, which again is sort of against the concept of Ken and Barbie. But the basic idea is that Barbie is an independent woman and Ken is completely superfluous. We then go to the beach, and there's a scene on the beach where the Kens are supposed to be the lifeguards, and the ladies are playing on the beach, and we get a series of gay masturbation jokes. Again, there's an audience for children. They're talking about beaching each other off, right? There's a line where Ken says to another one of the Kens, "I'm going to beat you off." Get it? Get it? You get it? Because it's like beat you off, but beach you off, and then they repeat that no less than 4 or 5 times in the span of 45 seconds.
Like anything targeted at anybody under the age of 18 can have no references to like you know, jokes or like you know, inappropriate jokes or whatever. Like that's a pretty subtle joke. That's like a classic kind of, you know, like Pixar joke the parents are gonna get, and you know, the teenagers are gonna get, but like the kids probably aren't gonna get. Kids are just gonna think these guys are just being really stupid, right? Like they're beaching each other. Oh, that's so funny. What does that mean? Like it's not a like, it's the sort of like total, you know, we need to keep kids sacred and hidden from any sort of like sexual discussions until they are 18, and then without sex ed, we're gonna throw them into the wild. That's like like, come on, man. Like it's not a good critique.
Seconds.
If I wasn't severely injured, I would beat you off right now, Ken.
I'll beat you off with you any day, Ken. Anyone who wants to beat him off has to beat me off first. I will beat both of you off at the same time.
Beat both of us off?
Nobody's gonna beat anyone off.
Bazinga.
Because it's just such a great gay masturbation joke. You got to go for it. I mean, what else will the 7-year-old girls in the audience think if you don't go for the gay masturbation joke on the beach? Clearly.
I think the 7-year-old girls are going to get the joke.
We get black female President Barbie because this is, of course, the greatest of all possible worlds. So Kamala Harris, the Barbie version, is the president of the United States. And then we get...
This is more supposed to... If anything, it's more of a, like a Michelle Obama reference than a Kamala Harris reference, but sure.
The break, right? Then we get the actual plot point. Plot point number 1. Barbie has irrepressible thoughts of death. So again, at this point, you might be thinking to yourself, wait a second, isn't this a kid's movie? Isn't this supposed to be made for 7-year-old girls? Nope. It's about existential angst over mortality. That's what this film is about.
Am I crazy?
Now,
or
again,
is
interlaced to all of this is just more and more and more politics, right? One of the Barbies is a trans Barbie, and this is treated totally normal, as though this is a female Barbie with a voice, again, deeper than my own. So Barbie starts to have these irrepressible thoughts of death. And this comes along with physical symptoms. Like, for example, her feet flatten out. Again, this is one of the few cute jokes in the movie, is that Barbie walks around, and just like a normal Barbie doll, when you take off the shoes, the feet are shaped like the shoe, like the high heel. But now she is turning into like a real world person, and so her feet collapse, right? And so she goes to see.
So he hates the toy references unless the toy references are funny to it. That doesn't... The only good toy reference in the movie, he says. That's kind of... Okay, sure.
Weird Barbie. So Weird Barbie is a Barbie that has been played with too hard and has all the knowledge, not only about Barbie Land, but also about the real world. And apparently there's a connection between the people playing with the Barbies and the Barbies. So if the people playing with the Barbies are sad, then the Barbies also get sad. Weird that this has only happened to Barbie, because it turns out that lots of people are sad and have played with Barbies for a very long time. But that's the plot point. Fine. And again, the concept of like a Barbie that was played with too hard is very funny, because everybody has seen that before. And they somehow blow this. Somehow they make this into a not funny thing. So Weird Barbie is ugly, and she has bad makeup.
Whoever he's hired to edit this movie or to edit this video, like, some of the jokes he's made are pretty funny, actually. Like, Ben Shapiro has upgraded his game a little bit. That like Law and Order joke. I found that Law and Order joke very funny.
Makeup and all the rest of it. And she informs Barbie she has to go to the real world, and she has to find the person who is playing with her, and she has to make that person feel better, because that will heal the problem that she's having in Barbie Land. Okay, so we have our plot point, right? We have the thing that's going to launch us off into the rest of the movie. And then it's just a complete mess from here on in. At least to this point, it's kind of dumb but coherent. From here on in, it makes no sense at all. Again, Kate McKinnon sets up the dichotomy that pretty much the makers of the film hate Barbie by suggesting that you can live in Fantasyland with Barbie, and you can take the Barbie shoe, or you can take Birkenstocks, right? You can become like a Portland lesbian, and you can learn about reality. That's going to be the choice that you have to make. But not before she makes a joke about Ken and wanting to see the nude blob he is packing under those pants.
That's somebody said that?
Perfect for 8-year-old girls, ladies. Mothers, just be warned. Ken and Barbie head off to the real world.
Fixated on characterizing this as a movie targeted at 8-year-old girls. Like, again, these are the kinds of things that are going to go over their head, but then the actual target audience, which are probably, 12 to 20-year-old women, like, they're going to think that's kind of funny. That's a funny reference. And, like, it's this classic groomer kind of thing that he's trying to peddle, where he keeps trying to sort of make it character. Oh, you're trying to like sexualize the young children. You're trying to make them think about this inappropriate stuff. Like, that's not funny, Ben.
World to try to find the person who is playing with Barbie. And immediately upon arriving in the real world, Barbie is hit with an overwhelming tsunami of sexism. Like right away, boom, she walks in and a bunch of men just leer at her and say, "Give us a smile, blondie," which is something that no one under the age of 70 has said to a woman in the recent past. "Give us a smile, blondie."
Oh, please.
Serious?
Okay, this is the thing I don't really like, where like these kinds of conservative types, the Ben Shapiros of the world, they pretend it's like sexism is like stopped. It's like, no, sure, it's like not as public, it's not gonna happen quite as often. But you hear, like, I've met women who, like, I work in a restaurant, right? I work with servers, very like attractive young women, and they get told stuff like that by customers, and they're all pretty good at smiling. Like, they're all pretty consistently, happy, cheery, going to greeting customers with a smile. But even they get like inappropriate comments, and it's not just by 80-year-old men. Like, this is a like a restaurant with, it's a bar, restaurant, pub kind of thing, with like a pretty young adult to like 30-year-old demographic. Like, sure, like this kind of stuff, there's a lot more people who understand that it's inappropriate, but it's not as if the stuff has stopped. And this is a movie. It's going to be an exaggerated account of reality. It's going to be an exaggerated depiction of what happens in the real world. So is it a little extreme? Sure, but they have to get the point across. Barbie needs to understand. She needs to experience this kind of stuff for the plot to work, for the messaging to work. She needs to experience this kind of stuff quickly, because she's only going to be in the real world for like a day or two. I think she's only in for like a few hours. That's just how this goes. Yeah, that's not, I don't know.
Seriously?
I maybe I'm nitpicking, but I just find it really, I find these kinds of reviews nitpicking, because it's like, if he wants to make a point about this movie's overall premise, then you need to, there's battles you win, there's battles you don't win, and he's like, he doesn't want to pick his battles. He doesn't want to, he wants to sort of nitpick every little thing and sully the well for the entire movie.
We get Barbie explaining that all of the men who are leering at her and gazing at her, they have an undertone of violence. Everything's she's threatened. She's physically threatened, because this is the real world. The real world is not like Barbie Land. In the real world, all women are victims. They are deep and abiding victims of the system, as we'll learn by the use of the word patriarchy no less than 10 times in this film. She gets arrested.
That is an admitted critique of the movie, but I do think, again, you have to think of the target audience of this movie. To like a man who, like, I'm sure, I want to be generous to Ben Shapiro here. I don't know a lot about his personal history. Let's assume he's never harassed a woman, right? Like, let's assume that. And I would like to believe that I have also never harassed a woman, but most women are going to encounter people who do harass them at least once in their life. And like, that kind of experience is going to also pose you. You're going to be more defensive. When bad things happen to you of a certain kind, you become more sort of prone to being cautious about that when interacting with like other people. So I just don't really appreciate this like characterization he has, where he's sort of, this is a ridiculous, nobody acts like this, women never experience this. Like, no, that's not how it works. Like, it's a very, I'm glad Ben Shapiro and the women in his life have lived such charmed existences, free of misogyny and like and abuse, but that's not the experience of the average person. And like, I think he would benefit from going outside of his circle and asking a few real people about the like bad experiences they've had.
Like twice for various crimes. Even the police officers are rabid, raging sexists. The police officers are hitting on Barbie. They're making observations about her appearance. Ken, meanwhile, is getting super happy because Ken, who's been sort of an underling in Barbie land, now he's realizing he's part of the patriarchy, and the patriarchy is awesome. Ken is loving the patriarchy. Now, you might imagine at this point that the way the film is going to go is that Ken and Barbie are going to have to some sort of agreement about seeing each other as equal human beings. You might imagine that's where it's going to... Wrong. That's not where the film is going to go. You might have thought that what you were going to get was Ken gets treated with respect as a person, and Barbie gets treated with respect as a person, and that's a better... Nope, wrong.
This was a weird note. He's kind of getting ahead of himself if he's trying to go in order, because this really becomes more relevant when discussing, like, the end of the movie. I wonder if I turn it down a little bit, if that'll, like, even out the volume. But, like, I do kind of agree with him overall. This was, like, a weird... This is a weird note at the end of the movie that I didn't think was as strong as the middle of the movie. I think the second act of the movie, the first and second act of the movie is definitely a lot stronger than the third act. And it's partially because a couple of the sort of subplots or, like, you know, major themes don't get tied up as neatly as I would like at the end of it.
In the end, not to skip ahead, Barbie Land just gets restored and the men are still subservient. That's the best version of the world. Okay, so Ken is walking around and he's really enjoying the patriarchy and all this
dance number.
And he explains that men rule this world, and he goes to Mattel, and all the members of the board are men. By the way, I'd like to see a corporate breakdown of the Mattel board. I'll bet I can find it. Like, the CEO of Mattel for 30 years was a woman, so there's that. They pretend that, like, Mattel is all run by men. So now I want to know who's on the board. Okay.
The thing is also, like, I just don't care. Like, make fun of CEOs all you want. Like, the joke that works the best with the CEOs is that they're not actually about representation. They're not about, like, you know, being empowering to young women or whatever. The only thing these CEOs care about is making money, and it just so happens that, quote-unquote, empowering women makes money. I think that joke lands, and I sure, it's like an over-exaggeration, which I think is something this movie does quite a bit, but it's supposed to be sort of a depiction of the world from the perspective of young women, like, in a movie directed towards young women. So, I don't know. I kind of, again, sure, let's give him this one. Like, sure, the board seems a little bit of a sausage fest compared to reality.
Okay, Chairman and CEO is a dude. The board includes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It includes 5 women. So it's 6 men and 5 women. Clearly patriarchal domination. Just wanted to look that up just for the sake of,
I expected.
Accuracy. Whenever I do these reviews, like, oh, you're taking the movie too seriously. The movie takes itself too seriously, guys.
No, because it doesn't take itself seriously. All of the executives are clowns. Like, I don't know what he's talking about here. The movie doesn't take itself seriously. Even going into the real world doesn't fully work on real world logic. It's more of a caricature of the real world than a depiction of the real world as it is.
It pretends to be a comedy, but it's taking itself super seriously. Fine. So, it's all men at the top of Mattel, and they realize that Barbie and Ken have escaped Barbie Land. And this presents some sort of threat. What kind of threat? Because the writers are shitty, they don't bother explaining. They're just like, a threat! And Will Ferrell acts all weird and goofy, like Will Ferrell. And he's funny, because it's Will Ferrell acting weird and goofy. But he's not funny, because it's just Will Ferrell with no actual plot or dialogue to speak of, just being weird. We'll fill that in later.
I do think Will Ferrell... I think the last thing I remember seeing him in was the Lego movie. There's probably something else, like, after that. But he does kind of have a tendency to play the same role in a lot of movies. Is, like, wacky, paternal CEO boss figure. You know, sort of the dumb fails his way to the top boss kind of figure. Which... I don't know. I would like to see a bit more range for him. I think it's become a bit of a played-out trope with him at the helm. But I think he was cast well in this movie, if that's the character they were going for.
There's so many places in the script where it's basically like the writers they left a gap, and they're like, we'll leave a couple asterisks, we'll fill it in later. And then later they got there, and they're like, nah, we'll just skip right over it. Fine. So they figured they got to track down Barbie and Ken. And meanwhile, Barbie is trying to track down the girl who's playing with her. And she mistakenly thinks that it is a teenage girl who is playing with her and who is unhappy. And at this point, she receives a lecture from the teenage girl about how Barbie has ruined the world and actually is fascist. How Barbie is a sexualized capitalistic emblem. How Barbie has created unattainable feminine ideals, how Barbie is ruining the planet with rampant consumerism. You get like this full lecture right in the middle of the film. It's truly awful. It's truly awful. She's called a fascist. By the way, it only sets up the only good line of the film, truly, in my opinion. There's one good line in the film, and that is where Barbie is trying to contemplate whether she's a fascist or not, and she says, I don't control the railways or the flow of commerce. Now, there's only one problem with that line, as with the entire movie. There is no character consistency. Barbie is supposed to be an idiot bubblehead piece of plastic.
I don't know if that's the case. I think she's supposed to be a bit of a bubblehead, but I don't know if she's supposed to be an idiot. I don't think they portray her as an idiot. They portray her as naive. But I actually thought that, like, I think he's misinterpreting this scene, because this scene where the young girl, you know, she goes off and she, you know, says Barbie's a fascist and all this. I think it's supposed to be in some ways like sort of the classic teenagers overreacting, or teenagers sort of, you know, blaming one thing for all of the world's problems. It's a classic teenage problem. You have a simplified understanding of politics, of right and wrong, of what words mean. It's very hyperbolic. And so I think like the use of the word fascist in that dialogue is specifically intended that way. It's like, that's a joke. Like that speech, well, there's hints of truth within it, right? There's a humorous element here where Mattel sort of calls itself out for commercialism and, you know, overuse of plastic. And you would think Mattel, you know, I don't think Mattel's going to cut down on the use of cheap plastics anytime soon. But otherwise, I think that's just a funny joke. I laughed at that dialogue. I thought that was very funny. Apparently Ben Shapiro doesn't think it's funny.
From Barbie Land. How does she know what a fascist is? How does she know about the flow of commerce? Like, again, just in terms of character consistency, like characters who actually are the characters, makes no sense whatsoever. So, meanwhile, Ken is wandering around, enjoying the patriarchy more and more and more, and he keeps asking men about the patriarchy. And at one point, he asks a dude about the patriarchy, and the guy says, well, that's not really the way that it works here anymore. He says, really? He says, no, it still works that way. We just hide it really well. Yeah. Again, you can't even present the mild other side of the film. And this sort of nonsense continues. First third of the film is about how Mattel is...
That is sort of a thing I didn't appreciate, where I think the thing is, like, most, you know, the average guy, I don't know, maybe in California it's different. A lot of people are very, like, quote-unquote woke or whatever there. You know, a lot of people there have a bit more social awareness, or at least they hear about a lot more social causes. So maybe the average man in California is going to know what the patriarchy is. But it's like if you go to like a random guy, like a random office suit in like Toronto, or a random office suit in New York City, and ask them like, what is the patriarchy? They're just going to say, oh, it's the thing that feminists whine about. Like, they don't know what the patriarchy is. Like, that was a weakness of the movie. It's like, I get Ben Shapiro should go and touch grass and talk to people, and maybe the directors should too. Like, maybe the writer needs to go and like have a chat with the average business suit, and not just people who, you know, work in the film industry.
It's kind of bad for creating this fancy land. Second third of the film is about the real world evils of the patriarchy. Oh, the patriarchy. Oh, the patriarchy. Culminating in an idiotic line where one of the low-level members of Mattel is with the board, and Barbie is looking for a woman at the board. And the low-level man says, I'm a man with no power. Does that make me a woman? No, you can't parallel park. That's what makes you a woman. Okay? And in any case, we get here a few obscure jokes about Proust Barbie, because again, Noah Baumbach has to show that he wrote some of the script. He made a reference to Proust. Doesn't that make him clever? Ooh. Next, he will make a reference, I would assume, to Victor Hugo. Wow. Proust. Ooh. Idiots who think they're smart. It's total. Okay, then Barbie escapes the Mattel building. They were going to package her up and they were going to send her back to Barbie Land. And she instead runs and she escapes the Mattel building. And she hooks up with America Ferrera. So America Ferrera is the actual one who's playing with Barbie as a youth. And it's her daughter who Barbie had originally approached. Twist! Okay, and she decides that in order to escape the Mattel executives, she's going to have to bring both of them back to Barbie Land. Why does she bring both of them back to Barbie Land? No one knows. There's no actual, there's no explanation as to why she's supposed to bring both of them back to Barbie Land. Supposedly, it's because she needs to escape back to Barbie Land, but she could do that without the two of them. But she decides she's going to bring them back.
I'm trying to remember. I feel like I'm being gaslit into misremembering the plot of this movie, but there was a reason that she had to bring them to Barbie Land. I think it was like, I think it was like if she brings them to Barbie Land, then they're gonna, it'll help the mum become happy again because she's like depressed, she's frustrated with her job, and so if she goes to Barbie Land where women are in control and women are empowered, it'll sort of give her a good experience that'll help her get over her troubles, which is a little. It's not a very good solution, but Barbie's supposed to be a naive character, and I think also they're supposed to all be sort of swept up in the course of action. As well, these people just help Barbie run away from the corporate suits, right? Like the corporate suits are going to want to apprehend them now. Like they need to escape to get away from the suits. That seems to make sense. There's no reason to believe on their part that the suits would know how to get to Barbie Land too. I was actually surprised when they followed them to Barbie Land that they knew how. It set up kind of a funny scene of them all, doing the tandem bike together, like all these executives. But still, like, I don't know. It seems if you go out of your way to not suspend your disbelief, then you're not going to enjoy any movie, Ben.
So she brings them back to Barbie Land. Meanwhile, the Mattel executives are chasing her. Now, question: why are they chasing her? They achieved their goal. Barbie's back in Barbie Land. Why are they still chasing her? No one knows. It doesn't make any sense. They literally say there will be consequences you can't even imagine. And then,
because she knows how to get back and probably because she knows how to get back and forth. Like, what if she comes back to the human world and causes chaos again? It seems like the simple explanation. They want to put her in a box. They don't want to send her back to Barbie Land. They want to put her in that box.
Like, fill in the blank. And some dude says something about a podcast with two trees. You're like, that's the laziest shitty writing. God bless it. Okay, anyway. So Ken, in the meantime, he has already headed, while she was, futzing around over at Mattel, Ken has already headed back to to Barbie Land, where he has immediately established the patriarchy. So just to point out here, the point of the film is that the matriarchy is amazing.
I hate Ken's code.
Women are amazing at everything. Ken walks in, and within 2 seconds, he has taken over all of Barbie Land, and he has turned it into the Kendom. Within 2 seconds. So apparently the women are so unbelievably competent and brilliant and great at everything over in Barbie Land that an idiot man walks in and takes over the whole place inside of 2 seconds. Fine. So he takes over the entire place. We later learn that's because the women, they didn't know what was coming. We later learn they didn't have immunity. And the way that they get immunity is by learning to hate the men. That's the way that they have to learn to hate men. Okay, so Ken decides he's going to go back and he's going to establish his patriarchal system.
It says a lot when you amount men to patriarchy and then you say hating patriarchy equals hating men. That's kind of I don't know, Ben. You're giving away the scheme there.
We only learn this when Barbie heads back with America Ferrera and Random Daughter. And Ken immediately starts acting like the jerks in the patriarchy, right? He calls her baby. Oh, no. He calls her baby. The greatest of all insults. He calls her baby. And then America Ferrera is trying to explain to Barbie what exactly is going on. And she's like, it's just like the indigenous people and smallpox. They had no immunity. Howard Zinn wrote the script. So the ladies in Barbie Land had no immunity to the magic of the patriarchy, the magic. The women were seduced into... So, just to point out here, the actual argument the movie is making is that if women enjoy men, it's because they have been brainwashed by the patriarchy. They make this message explicit in just a few minutes in the film. And when I say a few minutes, I mean several years, because this film took years off my life. It is long, it is boring, and it is terrible. Okay, so the Kens are about to perform... None of this makes any damn sense. Okay, the Kens are about to have a vote to change the Constitution. Why? Why? Ken literally just sees power. He's a fascist. What the f*** is he gonna vote for? Why are they voting? Like, he sees power. Also, what is the breakdown demographically of the Kens and the Barbies? Are there as many Kens as Barbies? Because why would they hold a vote? The Kens appear to be in a minority in Barbie Land. There are a lot more Barbies than Kens. So if that's the case, why even do the democratic vote thing? Why not just seize the power? Because then you wouldn't have the rest of the dumb plot of this stupid film. So they decide they're going to hold the vote. And not only are they going to hold the vote, they're going to be very fair about it. They're going to hold it in 48 hours. They're going to hold it in a couple of days to make sure that the Barbies have time to actually form a counter plan. Why would they do that? No reason. Asterisk, asterisk, we'll fill it in later. Okay, so they decide they're going to hold this dumbass vote. And the Barbies learn about this, and Barbie is very depressed because Barbie realizes that all the other Barbies have been taken in by the patriarchy, and this is extremely bad. Now, here's one place where you have a serious continuity error in the film. So, Margot Robbie, who plays Barbie at the beginning, half the time she plays Barbie is kind of stiff like a doll. And half the time she plays Barbie is just kind of normal. And so now she plays it super stiff like it all. She sits down, you know, in kind of 90-degree position like a Barbie would, and she keels over in the 90-degree position. And it would be funny, except she hasn't been doing it the whole film. Again,
this is the kind of thing where I feel like Ben has a very hard time understanding nuance in movies. Because it's like, when she's doing this, when she's sort of acting more dull, like, I didn't take that as, you know, a continuity error. I took that as she's trying to be more like a doll. She's going back to what's comfortable to her, to what she wants to be. She wants to be doll, like she wants to be a Barbie. And so she's returning to what she finds normal in order to attempt to escape her situation. And that's supposed to be depicted as something, it just doesn't work. Like, you can't just sort of enter into an escapist fantasy in order to escape the patriarchy. That's not how it works. The patriarchy, you know, the second you try to you want to get into the job market, you want to get into school, you want to do politics, you know, you're going to encounter these things. I thought that was more supposed to be like a subtext, right? This is the thing for Ben, right? Is like, if you look at the movie critically, if you go into a movie wanting to hate it, you're gonna find a bunch of things like this. But then, if you like do some actual film analysis, if you actually do some, you know, you look at subtext and you assume that a movie is a work of art and not just a piece of political propaganda, then you can start to see the different layers of the text that you can peel open and find more interesting things about the movie. And this is something I picked up watching the movie once. And I wasn't even planning on doing a review today. This just kind of happened. Like, Ben, you're an author. I don't know if you're a good one, but you're an author. Anyways.
The level of inconsistency and bad filmmaking.
Might not watch the full length of this movie. It's 40 minutes, and I'm already getting a little exhausted of Ben Shapiro's face. But we'll see.
Here is just off the charts. They needed somebody to actually sit down with them and be an adult in the room, and no one was there. So, at this point, America Ferrera and daughter decide they've given up on Barbie because Barbie won't fight for herself. And so they take off. And Michael Cera, for no reason, is in this film. And he's in the back of the car, and we don't know why.
Yeah, I'm confused about that.
And he serves no...
Yeah, his character baffled me. I assume it was a reference to some old Barbie toy, like a different kind of Ken doll or something. I don't know. He confused me. I think he was just supposed to be comedic relief at the end of the day. He's just supposed to be a well-intentioned guy who's not a jerk. Maybe it's because he's not, like, stereotypically attractive. So maybe it's sort of, he's not as drawn in by these, like, weird patriarchal, like, misogynistic tendencies. But that doesn't make much sense either, because you would think that somebody like him, who is not stereotypically attractive, would be more likely to get drawn in by misogynistic, you know, anti-misogynistic, dude bro, Andrew Tate kind of fantasies. So it's his character was very odd to me. And I couldn't figure out what his purpose was in the movie. Like, you could have cut him from the movie and there would be no substantial difference.
No purpose other than to have a random fight scene, and also so that they can make a Trump building the wall reference. Right? They're apparently the Kens are going to build a wall to keep people from getting in or getting out. Now, here's the weird part. No one has ever entered or exited Barbie Land before. Why are you building a wall? What is the necessity for a wall? No one explains. It's just a dumb Trump reference so that everybody who is friends with Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig can laugh and nod like the morons they are. And so the daughter and the mom, they decide, no, we have to go back and we have to save Barbie Land. They're going to save Barbie Land. And who do they go to? They go to wise, weird lesbian Barbie. They go back to Kate McKinnon, and they ask her about this. And they bring Barbie with them. And they're going to try to figure out a strategy. How do they stop the Kens from winning the vote? Now,
I don't know a lot about queer coding. Maybe she is coded as a lesbian. I didn't catch that. I don't know. It seems kind of strange to, like, you know, it seems like he's asserting a sexuality where one doesn't need to exist, and then sort of asserting that as, you know, people who already find that to be annoying, you know, the imposition of LGBT characters into otherwise non-LGBT films or whatnot, you know, there's a certain cadre of people who already find that frustrating. So this is just another instance of him poisoning the well in the conversation, because it's almost like, I'm not going to call it a dog whistle, but it's almost like a dog whistle to these sorts of people where, you know, somebody like me is just like, why is there that irrelevant detail? And then somebody like the Crowders of the world, or the Crowder fanboys of the world, are going to hear that and be like, oh yeah, it's more of this annoying asserted like representation nonsense.
You might say to yourself, wait, aren't the women majority? Do they not have agency, the women? They have no agency, apparently. So apparently the women have no agency, and they are a majority, and yet they have to be deprogrammed. They're going to be deprogrammed by weird Barbie and her crazy cadre of feminist heroes.
I love you guys.
And this is when we start getting into the real. You think it's propagandistic so far? Oh man, wait. Here is where we get into like the real meat of it. Okay, so we end up with Barbie complaining. She's complaining to weird Barbie. And she says, oh my God, they've brainwashed all the other Barbies. They've brainwashed all the other Barbies. She says, quote, either you're brainwashed or you're weird and ugly. There is no in between. And weird Barbie says, tell me about it. And this is the perspective of the film. Either you're a third wave feminist kook who hates men, like truly hates men, or you are brainwashed.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
There's no in between. There's no actual relationship between men and women. There can't be any sort of fulfilling relationship between men and women. There are no decent males in the entire film. All the men are garbage.
That is, again, the big critique where I agree with him that, again, I don't think it ruins the movie. But you have to remember, this is a movie. It's not a political, it's not, you know, something that they're expecting. They don't think people are going to go march in response to the Barbie movie. They're just trying to make a point about patriarchy, about the relations between men and women. And a lot of it does land, though. And that's the issue, is that if you focus on what doesn't land, you're going to get frustrated. But if you allow the movie to speak for itself, you can see there's elements of truth. A lot of movies that are trying to make a point make an exaggerated point. You know, I don't think any of the people who made Django Unchained actually think that you need to go and like kill every white person who is involved in the like oppression of black people. Maybe I'm sure there are activists who say that, but nobody's taking like people who advocate for like mass murder seriously, right? And it's the same thing here. They're not actually saying men and women need to be separate. It's a simplified message that's easily digestible, that people can then think about after the movie and think about how seriously they want to take it. That's, I don't know. I think Ben does a disservice to his assumption of the average person's intelligence by saying that, which I don't know. Yeah, he seems to think that everybody's going to take this movie and be like, oh yeah, I guess I do actually hate men, and I never want to date men, and I'm just going to girl boss my way through the rest of life. Like, that's, hate to say it, Ben, it's not how relationships work.
The only man who even appears mildly is America Ferrer's husband, who's just kind of a joke. He's there for literally 10 seconds in the film, making jokes about how he can't speak Spanish. That's his whole role in the film. Every other man is a piece of shit in the film.
It's kind of funny. Whatever. Okay.
Everyone. And so this is the perspective of the film when you come right down to it. Either you are brainwashed or you are weird and ugly. And Barbie's like, yeah, that's what Barbie says. I mean, the only decent male is Alan, who apparently wants to wear pink and probably is supposed to be gay. I mean, I think it's supposed to be pretty clear.
I see. This is one thing. His like the weird and ugly comment is interesting to me because obviously, you know, we have to understand that the movie is an exaggerated message. It exaggerates its point. It exaggerates what it's getting at. But at the same time, as I am not an archetypally super attractive person, so there are things that very attractive people sort of buy into: assumptions, social norms, interactions between the sexes that they grow very accustomed to, that people who are not, you know, naturally as very attractive often don't buy into or start to see the problems with a lot easier. And I think this movie doesn't put that point very delicately, and maybe that's sort of an an interesting subtext or an interesting small point that's lost and drowned out in the larger movie. But that is I don't think that's an unfair statement to make. If anything, that's like actually a very accurate and a very apt point for the movie to point out, even if it does it kind of poorly.
From the film, although really the take of the film is that all the Kens are gay. That's really the take of the film, is that it's all homoerotic kind of stuff.
Well, again, Ben, why can't straight guys dance? Why? Sure, I think the movie's a little queer coded, but it's like, at the same time, why can't guys, dance together? Why can't they wear fun clothing? Why do we need to adhere to these like really annoying norms of ugly suits and bland clothes and not being artistically interested? Like, why do we all need to be man's man? Why do we all like that? That's one of the few points of toxic masculinity that I actually kind of liked, is that the guys are far more interesting, they're far more fun when at the beginning of the movie, when they're all flamboyant and whatnot, and then they become very boring and generic and like very samey towards the end of the movie when they all take on patriarchy. In that way, it's one of the ways that patriarchy also hurts men too, is it takes away from the options men have in terms of behavior, in terms of clothing, in terms of all different like aspects of their performativity in society.
Let's beach off.
Anyone who wants to beach him off has to beach me off first. I will beach both of you off at the same time.
In any case, the filmmakers are so insecure with even their own script that they then have the narrator jet in to say, Margot Robbie might not be the best person to make this point, right? Because Barbie's saying, I don't feel beautiful anymore. And they're like, Margot Robbie. They literally jet in to say, Margot Robbie may not be the best person to make this point. Then maybe you shouldn't have written.
No, that was funny. Saw it off, Ben. Like, that was actually kind of, that was one of the few, like, this movie broke the fourth wall quite a bit, and that was one of the jokes that I thought actually landed. As I was like, yeah, because when she was saying the line where she's like, I feel ugly, I'm like, you're still Margot Robbie, though. And then, the narrator pops in and is like, Margot Robbie might not be the one to make this point. And that's funny. I thought that was a genuinely funny joke.
The point. Then maybe you shouldn't write it like that. Maybe you should not be a writer. Maybe you could do that. Okay, no.
Again, I haven't read your books, but I've heard a lot about them, Ben. And you might not want to be the pot calling the kettle black.
Okay, this is when we get the full bore thesis of the film. And guess what, guys? The thesis of the film, made by women, made for women, made starring women, funded by a studio.
Okay, what? No. So who does he say? Who are the four women here? I'm curious.
Made for women.
It's a very interesting picture. Like, interesting. He's trying to depict the audience of this movie, and I don't see many 8-year-olds in this picture. Like, I just see teenagers who are very excited to go see a movie that they, probably has a lot of nostalgic value to them, that they probably feel, a movie in the sea of Marvel movies and Fast and the Furious and action movies, a movie that's explicitly made for this demographic. I don't know. It's sure. Okay, Ben.
Made starring women, funded by a studio that is largely staffed by men. The take of the film is that it is impossible to be a woman in the modern age. Absolutely impossible. And so we get this long speech of America Ferrera talking about how it's so difficult to be a woman. They want us to be this way, but not that way. They want us to be thin, but they don't want us to say that we're thin. They want us to earn money, but they don't want us to earn money. They want us to do this, and they don't want us to do that. They want us to answer for men's bad behavior, but they don't want us to offend men. They want us to do this, and they don't want us... Oh my God, it's so difficult to be a woman. So the same tried, truistic bullshit that they've been propagating.
See, this is interesting because I'm of two thoughts of this. So I've heard a similar speech. I don't remember if it was in a movie or if I read it online, but I've heard a similar speech said about men under the current organization of society. And I think it's really interesting. Men are supposed to be strong, but also gentle. Men are supposed to listen, but also speak up. Men are supposed to be leaders, but not be oppressive. You know, and there's a variety of these other dichotomies. Men are supposed to be, you know, handsome, but not imposing, strong, but not threatening. And it's all of these, you know, dichotomies where it's like, how can you live up to this, you know, these two very different sets of standards that are supposed to coexist with one person? And I do, this is, you know, the weakest message in this movie is its commentary on toxic masculinity. And in some way, I do kind of wish, if they were going to bring up toxic masculinity in this way and include it as a major element of patriarchy, I really wish that they had brought up the difficulty that exists in being a man in modern society as well, or at least alluded to it in some way. I don't want to take away from the point of the movie, because the movie isn't for men, but I think there's value to be had in making those notes. It's like, you know, men also suffer under patriarchy. And if you want to, if this is a political message, then I think you need to try to, you know, persuade your male audience as well.
In every new wave feminist film for the last 45 years in the United States is now essentially telescoped into this one speech from America Ferrera, including a few cutaway shots of Margot Robbie looking up adoringly at America Ferrera as she explains that it's super hard to be a woman. It's so damn difficult to be a woman. You know why? Because of the patriarchy, because of the men. That's the actual story of the film. And then they make a couple of other dumb references, right? The Zack Snyder cut. The men, they like the Zack Snyder cut. Wow, that's terrible. Okay, fine. Then they say, you know what we need to do?
That was a joke that actually made my wife laugh quite a bit. There's also, there's a scene when they're trying to distract the men so that they can, like, get the women away to have a conversation with them. And the one woman, the one Barbie, she comes up to the Ken doll and is like, hey, are you watching The Godfather? Could you, like, explain to me what this movie means? And then he's like, oh, this is such an underrated movie. You know, people don't understand its depth and how valuable it is about cinema. And my wife literally, I heard her laugh. And then after the movie, she was like, yeah, I've been in that seat with you before. And I was like, I saw that. I haven't seen The Godfather, but I've definitely done that kind of thing about like different shows I'm into. And I'm like, when I've tried to show Christine, or tried to show my wife, or Christina as my wife. And yeah, I was like, oh no, I feel called out. That one was a little too accurate.
Use all of these Barbies of the patriarchy. How are we going to do this? We need to allow them to live with the cognitive dissonance required to be a woman under the patriarchy. That's a line from Barbie. Now again, they keep doing this. They keep having Barbie drop these extremely literate and well-articulated lines, but she's supposed to be a plastic doll idiot.
I think that's a misread by Ben. I don't think Barbie is supposed to be an idiot. I think she's supposed to be naive.
Authority should derive from the consent of the governed, not from the threat of force.
It doesn't matter. What is their actual strategy? So they have 48
I haven't
hours
seen
to
Toy
stop
Story 3 or 4, so that was funny.
This vote, which shouldn't be happening in the first place because it makes no plot sense. Because the men are fascists and the women are victims. But somehow they've been given 48 hours to stop the vote. So what are they going to do to stop this vote? How are they going to do it? Well, they're going to separate the men and the women.
Barbie!
They're going to turn all the Barbies against the Kens. It's so subtle. The symbolism is so subtle. Turn all the women against the men and you will save society. That's the message that you could be shoveling directly into the brain of your 8-year-old girl, if you so choose, this weekend.
Maximum volume.
So, they literally say this: get the Barbies away from their Kens. How are they going to achieve this? Well, they're going to make the men complacent and then take their power. This is how women have achieved power. Now, let me just digress briefly here in how women actually achieved power in Western civilization. The answer is that they lobbied men and men gave it to them.
Okay, continue.
That is the actual answer as to how women achieve power in Western civilization. The amendment to the Constitution that allowed women to vote was passed solely by men because women couldn't vote. It turned.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That is such a interesting take. Not because it's right, but because it's so categorically off base. Oh my goodness. Okay, so primer in how protests and boycotts work is that when a group feels that they are being mistreated, assuming they don't resort to militant action, which has happened in the history of women's pursuit of civil rights. Look at the British the women, the history of the United Kingdom and the history of women's rights movements in the United Kingdom. There were like bombings, there were vandalisms. Like they actually did run what they call like a peaceful militant campaign where they they didn't try to hurt people, they just wanted to hurt property, this kind of thing. But let's assume that that's out of the way, right? That's not an option, or the women in North America or in the American context specifically is what I'm assuming he's talking about, right? Or what he is talking about. It Men didn't just feel guilty one day and think, damn, I don't know, maybe our wives should vote too. No, women demanded that. They protest, they lobbied, they like caused disruptions. And the same with the civil rights movement. When black people worked to get like civil rights in the United States, they lobbied, they protested, and there was actually militancy that caused a lot of problems and that forced like white people to make concessions, right? Like that's short of overthrowing the state and establishing a new state order in its place. Yes, Ben, technically in a legal sense, men were the ones who voted women in to have rights. But like it's not as if women just kind of asked nicely until that happened. Like that's ridiculous. Like that's just it's almost as if women's rights in his world are sort of like something, men got bored of being so in charge for so long, so they gave women rights, and they should be thankful because they wouldn't have gotten the rights otherwise. So they should be grateful. No, they should be groveling and entirely complacent with what they've been given so far. Like obviously I don't think, I don't know, maybe this is my patriarchal perspective here. I don't think things are as bad in the world as the Barbie movie portrays them to be for women, at least not in North America. I live in Canada. I don't know how the States are. I could be off base here. But like Ben is like coming at it from a totally different direction here. Like Ben is like, if I'm off base, which I don't know, I probably am at this point. I'm just a dude yelling at his webcam. Like, if I'm off base, Ben is like, he's off the field. He's like, he's in line at the baseball stadium, still trying to get his hot dog. Like, he isn't even on the field. My goodness.
Turns out there are a lot of good-hearted men out there who like women and who want women to be able to live lives that they want. It turns out that many of us are husbands and fathers. Many of us have daughters. Many of us love the people we're married to. It turns
out funny, like a lot of women receive a lot of mistreatment by their husbands and their fathers because their fathers and husbands have very patriarchal and condescending ideas of their role in the household. That's not, these aren't incoherent, Ben. Like, sure, men, you want to know a crazy concept? You can love somebody and mistreat them. Have you ever heard of an abusive relationship, Ben? Like, I don't know. I'm really happy for Ben. And I don't mean this sarcastically. I'm glad that Ben and presumably his wife have lived such charmed lives that they've never encountered anything that's made them question this sort of social narrative. I'm happy for him. That's incredible. That's genuinely incredible for Ben.
Out that actually describes a huge number of Western men, that we are not your enemies. And yet the entire premise of the movie is that what actually happened in the feminist movement is that women seized the power away from the men. I'm sorry to break it to you, ladies. It ain't true. It ain't true. This notion that women vote as a block is not...
Yes, because framing issues... Because you have no idea what framing means, Ben. You have no idea how two different people or two different groups of people can look at the same event through like different lenses and see them through different, like, very unique but equally correct lights. That it's not as if you're an author. It's not as if you've directed movies, Ben, that you're an artist. Like, if you were, I would expect you to understand how framing works. Isn't that right, Ben? Also, I like this face that I paused on. I love it sometimes when you pause a video and they make a funny face. It's kind of mean. I'm not gonna... I don't know. Thumbnail for a YouTube video, maybe? That's, anyways.
Not true. Married women vote very much like their husbands, actually. Single women vote more like a block now than they did before. But it turns out that people are individuals, and some women vote one way and some men vote another way. But again, the idea here is very simplistic. Men versus women. Battle royale. And that's what this literally turns into, a battle royale between the women and the men. But really, it's about getting the men to fight each other. They bring all the Barbies one by one. They distract them. They bring the Barbies in one by one, and they unbrainwash them. How do they unbrainwash them? Well, they tell them truths, like, any power you have must be masked under a giggle. I have a question. I mean, I work with a lot of women. Do they feel like the power that they have has to be masked under a giggle? Was this film written in 1943? Who wrote this film?
I'm really glad that Ben is apparently an incredible employer. He is apparently, you know, a very gracious boss who treats all of his female employees very well. They sit at a big freaking round table or something. I'm making this part up. I'm just saying, you know, where nobody's at the head of the table and everybody has a voice no matter their gender or background or whatever. Like, that's great. I'm so happy for you, Ben, that go outside, touch grass.
Know who wrote this film? A feminist writer who gets paid millions of dollars to make horse. One of them says, we have to reject men's advances without damaging their ego. Or theoretically, you could just reject men's advances and damage their ego, because what do you care? You have to pretend to be confused about money. Is this a real thing? Like, do women pretend to be confused about money so the men will explain it to them? This is also such a claptrap.
And that's a commentary on mansplaining, which, like, I've found, you know, people in positions of authority tend to love to sort of over-explain things to other people. You know, it's like, if you enjoy authority, you want to lord over people by lording your knowledge over them. It's an assumption that with power comes intelligence, with comes wealth. You know, all of these are supposed to be, you know, if somebody is successful, then they are supposed to have all of these, and they assume themselves to have all of these. And, you know, typically men are often, you know, in the majority of situations, the people in power, and so they have, even in relationships often, and so they have a tendency to mansplain, which, you know, I hate mansplaining I hate it as a concept, because I think it's an asshole practice that people from all over do, but whatever, like, you know, men often do it, and it's really demeaning. It's really demeaning when anybody does it. Like, why can't we agree on that, Ben? Ben?
And then my very favorite, do you want some pants? Because that's really what this is about, is women really, really want to wear pants. That demonstrates the power of the patriarchy is that men really don't want women to wear pants, and women really, really want to wear pants.
Love your leg warmers.
Nice ass cut.
And then it's, you know, all the men being victimized, all the Kens being victimized by these various tactics, up to and including Ryan Gosling hitting on a trans woman.
When did pants come up? I thought, like, all the women wore dresses, like, for the most part, or all the Barbies did, and they, you know, and that was supposed to be empowering or whatever. I'm a little confused.
Meaning a dude who has a voice deeper than Ryan Gosling's, which is an actual scene in the film, which is just great. Okay, so
what if Ryan Gosling's into trans women? So what? Why is that a point? Is it because he's an attractive man, so you would expect him to not be into trans women? Like, I'm trying to figure out, like, I don't want to assume transphobia, but sounds a little transphobic, Ben. Sounds like you think that, you know, it's weird for him to hit on a trans woman.
Then, final step. Finally, the women have been disabused. So now they're going to play the ultimate prank. The ultimate prank is that they are going to turn the men against each other. How are they going to turn the men against each other? They're going to turn the men against each other by switching partners. They're going to get together, and Barbie is going to be with Ken, classic Barbie and classic Ken. They're going to be together, but then they're going to move on to the other Kens, and the Kens are going to start fighting each other.
Oh, I loved that dance number. That was so good. That was so fun.
Over the ladies, because they're going to switch over. Now, not to put too fine a point on this, but this makes no sense at all. Because guess what would happen if a bunch of beautiful women decided to switch to other men simultaneously? You know what the men would do? They would throw a party. So they turn the men against each other, and then we get
what? No, I think that scene did confuse me. I kind of just had to like accept that scene in the context of the movie's world and the point they're trying to make. Like, you know, if I was dating a girl and I was at like a beach brouhaha and then like, you know, all these girls, like they just switched guys, I would just be confused, especially if I had like seen myself as in a relationship with the girl I'm with. I'd be like, I didn't know I agreed to attend a swingers event. Like, I don't know, that just seems like a consent violation to me, but I don't know.
A 20-minute long segment of the Kens fighting each other using various implements ranging from like small bows and arrows with sticky
toys,
cups at the end to tennis rackets. And that turns into a musical number. What does any of this have to do with the plot? Nothing. Literally nothing. It is just a 15-minute digression because they wanted to insert a crappy musical number with not particularly good dancing. And then what are the women doing during this time? The women are voting.
I thought it was pretty good. I had a lot of fun with that musical number. Anyways. Again, the only now I'm looking at the unrealistic thing about the Supreme Court is that none of these women are old enough to be judges. And not because they're women, just because like in order to be selected as a judge, you usually need to be like actively practicing law for like a decade, sometimes 2 decades, and like often. And then you become a judge, and then you like work your way through the like various judicial posts. I don't know exactly how it works in the States, but you have to like have a lot of prominence as a judge. So these people are not old enough. These are like they're all like 20 something. Like how'd you get here? I don't know. And maybe this is just an ageist society. I'm realizing, you know, none of the Barbies. I guess they could be old because the Barbies don't seem to age. Yeah, they could be like hundreds of years. Well, they're probably about as old as Barbies are. So, 80 years old? That's old enough to be a judge.
The women are voting. So now we know the Democratic turnout strategy. The Democratic turnout strategy in 2024 is going to be to get all of the Republicans to fight with one another using tennis rackets while they go and they do the voting, apparently.
That would be awesome. I already watch American elections like it's a TV show, like a reality show with, you know, people's lives on the line. That would be my favorite twist of the next election. That would be better than 2016. Like 2016 was a shit show. It would be a win for democracy. Like that would be awesome. That's how all democracy should work, actually. Is we should just get the other side to punch each other so they don't go to the polls or hit each other with tennis rackets or whatever.
So they go and they vote. After they vote, they reestablish exactly basically how it was, the matriarchy. The matriarchy is reestablished. And Ken, who is now really sad because he's lost his power, and all he wanted in the first place was just to be treated decently by Barbie. Is he treated decently at the end by Barbie? Of course he isn't. That would be silly. At the very end, he is told that he needs to learn to live without Barbie.
I just don't know who I am without you.
You're Ken.
But it's Barbie and Ken. There is no just Ken.
He, who was literally created as a doll to be with Barbie, he needs to learn to be apart from Barbie, and she needs to learn to be apart from him.
I've already talked about this a bunch of times, like during the stream, but like, so I think the reason why I think this resolution to the Ken character arc is like kind of poor. It's just like it's a very shallow view of patriarchy and what drives like men to become more like misogynistic rather. Yeah, I'm not. Okay, it's fine. It doesn't just. I think the big difference here is don't think that this part of the movie not landing as well, devalues the entire film. That just doesn't make any sense to me.
Because atomistic isolation and loneliness is the best way to find fulfillment, ladies and gentlemen. It'll be best for Ken if he never sees Barbie again. It'll be better for Barbie if she never sees Ken again. Secular humanism is at its finest. We've reached the apotheosis. Men and women don't belong together. They belong very, very much apart. This is all topped off by Issa Rae calling somebody a motherfucker. Again, perfect for your 7-year-old girl who loves Barbie dolls. Just perfect for her.
You literally showed a picture of the audience and none of them were 7, Ben. Like, you showed the audience and they were not 7, and now you're... As well, fucking kids hear swear words all the time. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's not as if they're, like, using, like, explicit words for genitals. Like, she said motherfucker. Like, kids see memes. They've probably heard frickin', like, Samuel L. Jackson say that. Such a weird... the degree to which, like, these kinds of people, they want to shelter children in this box of innocence and naivety while also, like, hanging them out to dry for the wolves to eat in terms of, like, becoming victims of, like, various forms of abuse and sexual abuse and social abuse and economic deprivation that's coming because these people have no desire to, like, correct the mistakes of the last 20 years in the economy. Like, it's such a bizarre, like, do you want to help your kids or not, Ben?
And so we learn that men and women are supposed to be separate. They're not supposed to be together. And that maybe the matriarchy will allow the men not to be on the Supreme Court of Barbie Land, but maybe they can get some lower circuit court judgeships. This is what we learn. And we learn one day the Kens might have as much power and influence in Barbie world as women have in the real world. Because, of course, women are again, just absolutely subjugated in the real world. You think that's the end of the movie? Wrong. This thing has more endings than Lord of the Rings. So, ending number 1 is we find out that Ken is going to live apart from Barbie and he's going to find himself in being Ken. Ugh, the utter joy of self-exploration. Next, we get...
Self-exploration's good. You gotta take time for yourself. If you don't know how to be single, then it's gonna be much harder for you to have a healthy relationship. Okay, sure.
An ending in which the CEO of Mattel, who's been completely sidelined. You remember the CEO of Mattel? Remember he was supposed to be chasing them into Barbie Land for no apparent reason? So he's now in Barbie Land. We don't know why he's there or what he's there to do, except that we need Will Ferrell in the movie to provide no laughs. He doesn't provide any laughs. So he shows up. His motivation throughout this movie has been completely inconsistent. He started off wanting to put Barbie back in Barbie Land so that they could make money. And then he is told at one point that when Kens have taken over Kendom, they will make just as much money. He's like, no, that cannot be. I'm an ideologue on behalf of women. And then he arrives, and he is told that America Ferrera wants to make ordinary Barbie, which, by the way, would sell 0. Anyway, that will be profitable.
Okay. No, this is the one thing, like, when the conservatives call it out, they're usually right about it. They just miss it on their own side. Like, this kind of, like, shallow representation, like, corporate representation politics, it doesn't... The entire half of, like, a big message of this movie was that, like, you know, and America Ferrera, I don't know her name, like, she makes this point earlier in the movie where she's like, if it's so hard, if a doll even gets caught up in all of these, like, dichotomies of what it means to be a woman, like, how in the world can real women, like, solve this problem? And then her, like, later idea is to just create a different doll. I don't buy it. I didn't find that to be... I thought that line was really unimpressive.
Now he wants to make ordinary Barbie because he's back to being uber capitalist, evil capitalist. He's making money off of Barbie because, again, Mattel are the bad guys, but they're also the good guys. But they're kind of the bad guys, but they're mostly the good, but they're a little bad. And so that's ending number 2 at this point. So we have the Barbie Ken ending. We have the CEO of Mattel ending, where he says, we'll make ordinary Barbie, and then girls all over the world will know that ordinariness is fine and okay. Because it's not that girls play with Barbie because they think that she's beautiful and it's aspirational. No, it's bad. Okay, so then we have ending number 3. You think you're done? Wrong. We're now 2 hours deep into this piece of shit. And we have now dug halfway to China, and we are going to keep digging. So we have ending number 3. Rhea Perlman shows up to lecture us all about the patriarchy again. You haven't heard it enough. We got to beat this sucker into the ground. We are going to take an axe, the blunt end of the axe, and we're just going to beat this thing to death. We're just going to beat it to death. So Rhea Perlman shows up because Barbie, it turns out, she spent too much time in the real world. That was the patriarchy and was terrible. So terrible that she wanted to stop it from happening in Barbie Land. But now she wants to go back there because she actually learned some feelings over in the real world. So she decides that after all, this whole story was just Pinocchio, that she just wants to be a real boy. And in what can only be termed a sort of bait and switch, at the very end of the film, just to please the core audience, which is moms and daughters, they insert a bunch of footage, I kid you not, like home video footage of moms and daughters playing. That's what it is. Like people living their lives in female ways.
No, but this is like... See, this is the part of the thing, right, where they're trying to say life is more complicated. Life is, like, you know, life is ups and downs, and these, like, difficulties are what makes it beautiful. Like, I actually thought that was one of the B plots that actually worked really well. I thought that the way they approached that was really beautiful and would, you know, this is the kind of topic that could take up an entire movie. But I think that for the little time that they gave it, I thought there was very few problems with this thing. I think early in the movie, you know, Barbie encounters an old woman on a park bench, and she's like, wow, like, you're so beautiful. And the old woman's like, yeah, like, damn right I am. You know, and it's like, yeah, like, that is part of what makes life great. It's like Barbie, you know, part of what makes life itself beautiful is that it involves overcoming challenges, it involves overcoming difficulties, and I think that's beautiful. Like, I think it's the classic problem where, like, would you know what it's like to be happy if you were never sad? Would you know what it's like to be successful if you never failed? You would just assume that to be the norm. Anyways, let's wrap up this video. We're almost done. I didn't know if I would get to the end. But here we are.
Because Rhea Perlman is going to show Barbie what it's like to be a human, and then Barbie is going to say that she really wants to be a human just like you, just like you. And so they hit you with the nostalgia play. At the very end, the whole movie, which should have been nostalgia and about moms and daughters, instead, the entire movie is not that. The entire movie is instead about how men are evil.
The two of the main characters are a mom and her daughter having this, like, interplay on what it's like to be a mom and a daughter in the 21st century. Like,
and terrible. And also Mattel is evil and terrible. And then at the very end, they shove in this little nostalgia play in the hope that they can buy back the audience at the very end of the film. And Barbie decides that she is going to be a real woman now. Now, when she goes, that's ending number 3. There's still one more. So when that happens, when she goes to, when she goes into this white area that's supposed to be heaven, because the person who she's talking, Rhea Perlman, is actually the person who actually created the doll. And we're supposed to be, this was supposed to be a secret, is that Mattel was run by men, but the big secret all along is that a woman created the doll. News. It's not a secret. She was CEO of the company for 30 years. CEO of Mattel for 30 years, from like 1945 to 1975, until the IRS caught her for tax evasion or something. The big reveal that the patriarchy said that it created Barbie, it didn't. No one thought the patriarchy created Barbie. Again, don't bother with the facts. Don't bother with sense. Don't bother with chronology. Don't bother. None of it matters. So Barbie is now sent back to the real world, and she is now going to experience the apotheosis of what it means to be a human woman. So we've learned early on in the movie, when she goes to the real world, she's catcalled by a bunch of the construction guys, and she says, I don't have a vagina. And she, again, amazing line for your 7-year-old girl. She'll love it. So apparently, when she is turned into a real woman, she has now grown a vagina. So the first thing that she does is she goes to the gynecologist, because ladies, the apotheosis of your being is not motherhood. We got rid of that at the very beginning. And it's not being a wife or a partner, because women are supposed to be apart from men. It is your vagina. It is that you go to the gynecologist. Ladies, this is what makes you the most human you can be, is that you go to the gynecologist. Now, I could point out here that that's really transphobic. That according to the same people who made this movie, not all women have vaginas. And not all people with penises are men. I could point that out right here, because it obviously conflicts with the very ending of the film. But instead, I'm going to go with this one. At the end of all of this, they've boiled down, they have a whole conversation about identity and death and meaning, right? This whole conversation. What does it boil down to at the very end? What it boils down to at the very end, apparently, is being biologically female is the only thing that matters And that's it, kind of. That's it. Like, it all just boils down to a lady at the gynecologist.
It was a joke, Ben. It was a joke. It's funny because they allude, like you said earlier, that she doesn't have a vagina, and then at the end of the movie, you know, she has one, so she has to go to a doctor to see it. And it's funny because she's all happy and preppy, and most women who go to the gynecologist, you know, most, you know, cis, like, vagina possessing women, you know, which is most women, to be fair, like, most women have this common experience, right? And it's funny because the miserable experience, you know, I don't know what gynecologists do. I assume they put their fingers in there to figure out what's going on. Like, you know, it's a miserable experience. And she's all happy, and you're like, wow, is she going to like a job interview? Like, what's going on here? Is she getting her first job? That's such a big step for her. And no, she's going to the gynecologist. It subverts expectations a little, made me laugh. That was funny. Like, why are you not funny, Ben? Like, why is it that your editors are so much funnier than you are? Like, the funniest parts of this entire review haven't been you making fun of the movie. It's just been you, like, mutilating Barbies, which was kind of metal as heck. I'm not gonna lie.
That's female power. Female power is Barbie goes to gynecologist, which I don't know about you ladies, but that seems like that's not like the most feminist message. That lady parts are the entirety of the lady. So excellent job. And with that, we end the film, and then we have the glossy, you know, credits with a Nicki Minaj song, a Nicki Minaj version of "I'm a Barbie Girl in a Barbie World." This movie started off as Barbie, and it was Weird Barbie. It was the toy that was handed off to Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig, and they played with it too hard. They decided that they were going to turn it inside out. They're going to rip off the hair. They were going to shave it. They were going to make it ugly. They were going to put all sorts of makeup on it, and then they were going to throw it out in the public. Now, those of us who are on the right, we look at the politics of this movie, we're like, man, so it sounds like a double sandwich. It doesn't sound like a Big Mac. It sounds like a double Big Mac, right? It sounds like the plot is crap, and the characters are crap, and the humor is crap, and then on top of that, the politics are crap. But you're missing the point. There's a reason this film has 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. And the reason is, if you are on the left, you can make one of the world's most boring, crappy comedies. You can waste an extraordinary amount of money and talent. You can waste some of the great IP ever created. But as long as you slather it in a bunch of warmed over glorious Steinem nonsense, the critics will just salivate over you. They'll pretend that this is an actual good movie. So here's my prediction in terms of market. The marketing campaign for this movie has been astonishingly good, right? If you walked into this movie and you knew nothing of what I just said, what would you think this movie is? You would think that this movie was probably something like the Disney movie Enchanted, but with Barbie. It's going to be Barbie in Barbie Land, and then it's going to be Barbie in the real world, and it's going to be charming, and it's going to be funny, and it's going to be warm-hearted, and it's not going to be vicious and cynical. And it's not going to be what morons talk about at Hollywood cocktail parties. It's just going to be fun. It's going to be a place where a mom might be able to take her 7-year-old or 8-year-old girl and enjoy themselves together and then walk out with their arms around each other. You might think that's what it was going to be. And undoubtedly, millions of moms and their daughters will think that. That's what you're seeing at the theaters. That's why you're seeing everybody wearing pink to the theaters. It's become like a Star Wars kind of thing, right? It's an actual cosplay of it. The number of moms who are going to take their daughters back to the theater week 2, good luck with that. Really, good luck with that. Hollywood decided to empty out its own IP here. They decided they were going to take a golden piece of IP and they were just going to smash it and turn it into Weird Barbie. And I got to tell you.
Okay, what else? He just keeps talking. That's enough of Ben Shapiro. My goodness. Okay. It's always fascinating to me how, like, you know, if you have a certain framing in your head, a certain political framing, a certain social framing, and you go to a movie, you can just get like 2 completely different things out of it. Like, if you're looking to be empowered, you will be empowered. If you're looking to be frustrated and angry, you will be angry. And I think it's unfortunate because I think there's a lot in this movie to like. And I think overall it's a really good movie. I recommend this movie to pretty well particularly young women. I think they should go and see it. And I don't think anybody's going to walk out of this movie suddenly brainwashed into feminist ideology. I think what instead's going to happen is a lot of women are going to go, and if they're not poised against it, they're going to see a lot that is very relatable. It's a very relatable movie. And even at times, you know, in some of the ways that they call out men in funny ways that are not, when they're distracting the men. The part that knew that I when the point when I knew that this movie was going to be relatable was in that point, in a couple of those jokes of distracting men where I was like, oh, I feel a little called out here, and I think that's ultimately what's going to prove this movie to be successful. And I think that this movie is going to sell streaming copies afterwards. I think people are going to keep watching it. I think it's going to turn into a bit of one of those like classics. The unfortunate thing, and what I've heard in the news, is that Mattel seems to have taken the completely wrong message with this movie. So they've now greenlit like 10 to 15 toy-based movies of different toy franchises. And if they're creative with them, maybe they could be fun. But I think what made Barbie successful is that it had a point to convey. It was a really fun and interesting movie. It was very colorful. Like the acting was all really good. Like Ryan Gosling, who I keep forgetting his name, but his name is Ryan Gosling. He plays Ken. I think his script was probably one of the weaker scripts in the movie, and I think he did it so well. He was such a stage presence. He played the role perfectly. I think him and the other Ken, the Asian Ken, were so funny when they played off of each other. Margot Robbie, as always, was incredible. I think this was a much better attempt to say what she wanted to say than Birds of Prey, which she was in, which is like a Harley Quinn spin-off movie of the DC universe that came out a few years ago. I think this is a much more successful encapsulation of the core ideas of that movie. And I think it's going to make money, and I think it's going to keep making money, and I think Ben is, the conservatives are going to have a nice little outrage machine for the next couple weeks, which will keep selling copies because a bunch of people are going to go see it. A bunch of people who otherwise, they're like, oh, it's corporate schlop, are going to go see it now because it makes the conservatives angry. It's like, if you want to make the libs mad, well, they're gonna do the exact same thing to you. People love triggering each other now. They love dunking. So thank you, Ben, for contributing to the Barbie marketing campaign, I suppose. But anyways, I'm going to wrap things up here. Let me change. Yeah, change. Yeah, I'm just learning how to use this streaming setup. But I'm going to wrap things up here. I'm probably going to put this on YouTube. So to anybody on YouTube, thank you very much. This has been Crab Lord Caleb. Why I am the Crab Lord, I will let you figure out yourself. I'm excited to see any fan theories if I acquire any fans. I'm planning on streaming tomorrow. That's July 29th from 2 p.m. Manitoba time till 5 p.m. Manitoba time. That's about 3 hours. That's, I think, in Eastern time. That's going to be 3 to 6. So feel free to join me. I might play a little bit of Valorant. I might play a little bit of Halo. Might get Nevin on call because it was a lot of fun talking to him. And yeah, so thank you very much. This has been Crab Lord Caleb, and I'm going to sign out for the day.